Can you hear me, bro? And we are live, people. We are live. Welcome to the Solution Podcast, people. P. Diddy on trial, live discussion. And I'm here with JM. He went off stage for a bit, is here now. JM, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can hear me, yeah?
Yeah,
Yes.
you're fine,
And
yeah.
today we're going to be talking about P. Diddy on trial, how this trial is going on. What do you make of what's going on with this P Diddy thing? I'm not
Mm,
really that invested in it, but
mm,
it's kind of impossible for you not to pay attention to it. You know what I mean? Because it's everywhere. Everyone's talking
right.
about it. Everyone's reacting to it. It's just
Yeah.
like everywhere, and I've never really been interested in it
Mm,
because it's just P Diddy's degenerate behavior. It's like
right.
cares about that. But anyways, but since everyone's reacting to it, since everyone is interested in it, what do you think of it so far? The trial so far.
Well, it's interesting because you mentioned the degenerate behavior, and I think that's the one thing that I think the one thing which people are taking away from the trial is the degenerate behavior, some of the very twisted sexual behavior. But my thing is, if someone's on trial, it should be there should be some type of law. I mean, this is about breaking of law.
Mm,
And he is being charged for sex trafficking, which I looked at the
yeah,
definition of sex trafficking. It was basically someone that transports people against their will
that's
for
right.
for the purposes of making them, forcing them to engage in sexual acts with paying people, paying customers, I guess you can call it.
Is
And
that the
I,
definition? Yeah.
yeah, I looked it up the other day. I looked it up,
Okay.
and I'll be honest. I mean, when I see so far, I haven't seen. I haven't seen any evidence of someone being forced to travel around for the purposes of sex, um, for paying customers. Certainly, I haven't seen Cassie in that. I mean, I haven't seen Cassie being used as a sex trafficking based on the criteria. I'm not sure she was forced to do it because that hasn't seemed to come out, and the payment aspect of it to paying customers. What
Mm,
I'm hearing about is other people being hired for sex
mm.
and potentially being flown out for sex with Cassie in these freak off parties. But again, I don't know how that meets the criteria either because they weren't forced to do it. You know, they weren't
Yeah, the
forced
main
to be. Yeah, they weren't forced to go and have sex with people, and the people are paying for it. They were being paid themselves to go out and have sex. So I don't understand the case, to be honest.
the main thing is the main thing here is, did these people feel forced? Were they
Mm,
forced to cross state lines in order to engage in unwanted sexual activity? Is that what was happening? If they were not
mm,
forced, if they were doing it willingly,
mm.
then why are we here? Why are we why are we talking about this? This is
Right.
silly.
And the thing is,
But
if
let's
it was domestic abuse, he'd be banged to rights because we got video of him beating up Cassie, and apparently there's lots of testimony from people saying they witnessed him beating her. But he isn't being prosecuted for domestic violence.
yeah, yeah. But the thing is, I think the statutory limitations for that crime, I
All
think
right.
it passed or something, or
Mm,
it no longer applies. So he can't be prosecuted for what he did to Cassie on
right.
that video. But yeah, you're absolutely right. When it comes to domestic violence, I mean, from all the interviews that I've heard so far, people have said that he has engaged in, physical abuse or beating
Mm.
up women, not just Cassie, other women in his life. Um,
Yeah.
that they've heard, but he's not being prosecuted for that.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to say. Shouts to quick reviews. He says she clearly just what? She clearly just what? What are you trying to say, Jim? What's quick reviews?
She clearly just
Hashtag
smashed the guy. I guess smashed.
oh
I
smack.
I think it's smashed. Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say me too with the guy. Oh,
I think
okay.
what he's saying is that she clearly was just, she was a sexual partner. But if you go through some of the I guess we're gonna do it in a minute. If you go through some of the testimony, she admits to them in a relationship, her loving him, she loving him,
Yeah,
them
yeah.
breaking up numerous
We react
times,
to that.
breaking up, willingly going back. I mean, let's look at some of this
Yeah,
testimony.
yeah, yeah. And shouts to we've got 13 of you guys watching at the moment. Shouts to you. Welcome to the Solution Podcast, guys. And I'll put the link in the chat as well if anyone want to join us and offer their opinion on this situation. But yeah, we're gonna react to the video right now. Hold on a second. Hassan, what's going on? Stop hiding, Hassan.
Their love for one another, and threats of murder as Combs
Can you
cast
hear anything,
violence
bro?
and freak-offs as domestic
Yeah,
violence and consent.
All right, it's doing the same thing that it did to me last time.
I can hear
Um,
it.
you can hear it, but that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. For some odd reason, I'm the one who can't hear it. Hold on a second. I don't know what's going on. Should be.
Consensual sex, not sex trafficking. I go over the grilling of Cassie Ventura in Combs's trial and cross-examining Cassie.
And
Sean
you can hear it fine,
Combs's
yeah?
lawyers went at Cassie
Yeah.
Ventura.
The hell's. Why is it on my side? Not. Why can't I hear it on my side? Fair use, fair use, fair use, fair use. Yeah, all of that good stuff. Hold on. I'm gonna have to start looking into this. Hold on a second, guys. Sorry, guys. I apologize for this.
As domestic violence and consensual sex, not sex trafficking. I go over the grilling of Cassie Ventura in Combs's trial and whether Combs's team got their job done. Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Cassie Ventura is the government's star witness in its sex trafficking and RICO case against Sean Diddy Combs. Ventura, whose stage name is Cassie, was on the stand for 4 days in the Southern District of New York as the federal government works to prove that Sean Combs used his companies to commit a number of crimes and that Cassie Ventura and other women were sex trafficked by Sean Combs to meet his sexual desires and fantasies. Combs, for his part, says any sex the women had with male escorts that he hired was consensual. The freak-offs were sometimes days-long, drug-fueled sex encounters where Ventura and other sexual partners of Sean Combs had sex with these male sex workers as Combs watched and sometimes masturbated. The encounters were often videotaped, and Combs kept those tapes, according to federal prosecutors. Cassie Ventura testified that she and Combs were together for 11 years, and there's a 17-year age difference between the two of them. Cassie was also one of his recording artists. Now, at first, she said she was open to these freak-offs, but later, she said she felt she had no choice in taking part in them. A centerpiece of the government's case is that 2016 video of Combs chasing Ventura out of a hotel room in Los Angeles.
So this is again. Look at what he's been prosecuted for. Well, for remember sex trafficking, and she laid it out there. The idea of people being against their will transported across state lines for sex, forced into sex.
Mm.
So Cassie, by her own mouth, admitted that she was voluntarily doing it initially.
Yeah,
Then she said she changed her mind. Okay. Now, how can you prove that in the court of law?
I see what you're getting at because that's the that's the part I paid attention to as well. So basically, first of all, she's a willing participant. She wanted to do it, and then as time went on, she felt like she had no choice but to do it.
But how do you prove that
That
in the court of law?
how do you prove that in court? Believe all women? I guess that's how you do it.
I mean, how could that work? I mean, it's going to be you talk about
No, no,
someone's
no, 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 no.
life.
no, But this is
Yeah.
what I'm trying to. But this is what I'm trying to say, because these days, if a woman says she felt that she agreed to it, yes, she went into the bedroom with him, yes, she was, but as soon as she got there, she started feeling like she didn't really want to be there, but she didn't express it. I don't know. Correct me, someone please correct me if I'm wrong. But isn't that grounds of grape? Isn't that grounds
Sure it is.
for that's what I'm trying to say. But the thing is, even if she didn't make her intentions completely known, um, or or known to the person, or known to the man that she was involving herself with, sexually, if she felt in any way, any shape, sort of awkward about the situation that she was involving herself in, she can say that she was great or she was forced against her will. Because what she's basically saying there is that first she was a willing participant, and as time went on, she just felt as if she had to do it. Now, the point that we have to pay attention to is, you know, her feelings changed, and these days, unfortunately, with the kind of current system that we currently have, that could constitute as great.
Yeah, but he's not being tried for rape.
Sorry,
You see what I mean? He's not being prosecuted for rape.
he's being prosecuted
He's not
for
being he's not. It's sex
yeah, he's
trafficking.
been for sex trafficking. No, but that's an interesting thing that you picked up on, which is the whole her feelings changed, and
Yeah.
hence why she's here, because it doesn't matter how much in court. I think they'll be able to prove that she was a willing participant and she was
Mm.
really on it. Just because her feelings change, they will use that as because we live in this crazy world, like you rightly pointed out. How do you prove that? Do you see what I'm saying? Unless she's got text messages where she's saying, I no longer feel comfortable with this, and him turning around and saying, I don't care how you feel, you're still gonna go ahead and do it. Unless there's text messages of that nature, then yeah, I can
But
see.
there's something that people don't. There's like an elephant in the room. Can you hear me, Nelson? Yeah, there's an elephant in the room that people I think I find interesting. We got to look at the whole history here and the context of their whole relationship. She was a very young girl when she got with him. Okay,
Yep.
early 20s, if that.
Mm,
She was an aspiring singer.
mm,
She gets with a music mogul.
mm-hmm,
It becomes very clear to her that he is a bit of a sexual deviant. He likes to have these parties where doesn't have a problem with whoever woman he's with sleeping with other men. She willingly participates in it.
mm-hmm.
Why do you think she did that?
So, well, okay, I'm thinking for her right now. Advance her career in music, perhaps. Because
Right.
she liked him, she was attracted to him. She usually when a woman is attracted to you and likes you, she will do whatever you want her to do. She'll go far and beyond to please you. There's that, and
Okay,
also
but it's interesting you said that, but I want you to really think about what you just said there. We both had relationships, okay? How
yeah,
many of those relationships do you think, if you said to the woman, I want you to go in that room and have sex with 3, 4 men, and I'm going to film it, I'm going to watch from out here. How many women do you think would be, yeah, okay, I'll do that?
not many,
Right. So
not
it's
many.
pretty unique.
Like, yeah, it's a unique thing for you to for you to get a woman to get into that mind space where she's like, I love him so much that I'm actually going to go into that room and have sex with all those men that he's telling me to do it. Unless you got a gun to her head or literally
So why do you think?
forcing her.
What would be one of the reasons why someone would potentially do that then?
For to advance her career in the music business.
Right.
That
Right.
could be
Okay.
that's the first thing I actually said. But yeah, that's definitely one of them. Yeah, selfish needs. Yeah, she
Yeah.
wanted what she wants, and she thought, let me do what he wants me to do, so I can get to where I want to get to.
So I mean, I think the context of that is very important. I don't see people. I find it interesting that no one's bringing that up. I think it's a very poignant point for the
Yeah,
case, in my opinion. But I guess
no, no, no.
everyone,
It makes perfect sense. That why did you? Okay, you signed to him as a musician, so obviously you know you wanted to become a musician type thing. That was where your heart was at. So maybe that's the reason why you did what you did, because this is what you wanted to do. You wanted to become a musician. You thought you were going to get ahead by doing whatever he wants you to do, and however degenerate that was.
Mm,
B Diddy, we call it degenerate. We come. I just want to say one thing. I call it degenerate because I'm coming from a moral point of view. Okay, I'm looking at it from a Christian lens as to what P Diddy is doing. His behavior, that type of behavior, that promiscuous behavior, is immoral. But that's me coming from a Christian perspective. But in today's society, okay, regardless of how I feel as a Christian, there's nothing wrong with what P Diddy's doing. There's nothing wrong with him satisfying his sexual appetites. However, you can look at it, you cannot like it, you cannot find it. You can find it distasteful if you want, but but there is nothing wrong with what P Diddy did, in terms of satisfying his sexual appetites. Now, trafficking, of course, what he's being accused of, that's something completely different. So I'm coming from a moral perspective, basically. What he did was morally wrong, but
yeah.
there's nothing wrong with what he actually did because society allows, you know. And you just continue.
Angeles, hitting her and kicking her as she tried to leave. Ventura also testified that she felt forced to take part in the freak offs, even when she was suffering from urinary tract infections. Some she would get so often that antibiotics wouldn't even work to treat them any longer. On direct examination, Assistant U.S. Attorney Emily Johnson asked Ventura about that civil lawsuit that she filed against Sean Combs, which really started this entire federal investigation into the rap mogul. It was settled within a day. Ventura said she agreed to drop the suit in exchange for $20 million. Combs's team will say this is largely about money, and there was no sex trafficking. Attorney Anna Esteveo was chosen to cross-examine Ventura, so let's get right into it. Esteveo started by asking, "You and Sean Combs were in love for 11 years, right?" Cassie responded, "Yeah." Esteveo continued, "During that time, you loved him." Cassie responded, "I did, yes." Esteveo asked, "And you believed that he loved you as well?" Cassie responded, "Yes." Esteveo then went on to ask, "And during those 11 years, you took care of him?" Cassie responded, "In the ways I could, yes." Esteveo asked, "And you believed that he needed someone to take care of him?" Cassie responded, "I don't know." Esteveo followed up, "In some ways?" Cassie answered, "In some ways, I guess, yeah." Esteveo then got Cassie Ventura to admit that she left Combs, but always returned to him. Esteveo asked, "You said on direct that you were very jealous. I think insanely jealous is the phrase you used." Cassie responded, "I did." Esteveo asked, "And he gave you a lot to be jealous of, right?" Cassie responded, "I mean, it's all relative, yeah." Esteveo asked, "But for 11 years, you put up with that jealousy, right?" Cassie responded, "Not the whole time, no." Esteveo asked, "You were on and off during the relationship, but you kept coming back to him for 11 years. I wouldn't use the word coming back. You would continue to get back together with him for 11 years." Cassie responded, "Yes." Esteveo then asked, "Despite his imperfections, maybe not strong enough, Cassie responded, yes. Esteveo said, his flaws, right? Cassie responded, yes. This is another law and crime legal alert. If you
Yeah.
received Depo-Provera birth control shots
Perfect.
and were later
Yeah, I waited for you to hear that transcript. What's your views on that?
Yeah, it looks like they had shouts to, we got 30 of you guys watching the live right now. Shouts to all of you watching. Welcome to Solution Podcast. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, guys. Yes, my reaction so far, they were having an on and off relationship. It looks like to me she could have left at any time if she wanted to. It doesn't look like she was forced. It looks like she had real feelings for him. She really loved him. Um, and yeah, I mean they had an on and off relationship. Uh, and I mean that's what I see. But what I noticed in these 11 years of she could have left at any time. She could have said, "No, I don't want to be part of this anymore. I want to leave." She could have done that. There was nothing stopping her from doing that, and that's what I've noticed so far.
Yeah. So I've shared you another video. You can upload it. Just give me a minute. I'm sending it to you now. So while I'm
Mm,
talking, you can think about loading it up because I think it's quite interesting. Because I think it's
no.
good to get, us here. We don't want to go with just any kind of narrative
Mm,
that people want to put out there and just go with it. We need to get the full kind of it's good to get other people's views. But in terms of what I heard just there,
mm,
I don't again how are you proving sex trafficking with that kind of relationship? You had someone that willingly was in a relationship by her own words.
mm-hmm,
She willingly partook in the sex behavior, her
mm,
words. She the relationship was on and off. That suggests that when it was off, he wasn't pursuing her.
yep,
If she admitted by her own words that she would go back to him. This
yep.
is what she's admitting.
And
That
don't
he would
forget,
go. Yeah,
don't forget the insanely jealous. She would get
right.
insanely jealous.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. This doesn't seem to add up to me in terms of what
Yeah, yeah.
he's been
And
charged with. I'm not so
I don't know
much.
if
He doesn't seem to be a best witness for that.
I don't know if I don't know if you saw this or not. But what do you call it? On Piers Morgan, one of the
Mm.
guys that they one of the guys that they used to hire, and I'm talking about what's his name, P Diddy and this woman here. One of the guys that they used to hire was Cassie. He was interviewed by Piers Morgan on Piers Morgan's show,
Okay.
and he's basically a male prostitute, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the top of his game, you know what I mean? Like
Okay.
famous people hire him for his services, put it that way. So and I think he was dealing with Cassie and P Diddy for like 2 years, 3 years or something like that. And what would happen is Cassie would be the one. Cassie would be the one that will hire him.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Yeah, tell him where to go, what hotel
She
to go
chose
to.
him. Yeah, she chose
Yeah,
him.
at first he didn't know who it was. He didn't even know that it was Cassie. He didn't even know. And every time he would come in, there would be, she would have all this makeup and all this type of stuff, like basically hiding who she is. And then there would be a male figure at the end of the room or whatever, watching, what they were doing, basically. And that would be P Diddy, but he didn't know. And P Diddy would wear masks and so on and so forth. So that's what I'm saying. And what's her name? Cassie was was she was the one booking the guy. She was the one bringing the guy over to the hotel. She was the, and then
Well,
she
that
would,
has come out that she was the one choosing. She would choose the person.
yeah, she would even
I want
choose.
that. Yeah, she would literally choose the person.
Yeah, exactly. And apparently he injured himself. He injured one of his biceps or whatever, and that's the reason why. And he didn't perform so well on one of the sessions that he was hired to perform in, and that's the reason why he he didn't come back again. All right, and
Wow.
P didn't even be on the corner watching. You know, guys, I find that type of behavior crazy. Uh,
Autistic.
yeah, to watch your that's to watch your woman being, you know what I mean, by another man while you on the corner watching. I think that's, I mean, that's, I don't even want to. But anyways, and when he didn't perform, they got rid of him. It's like that was the part that's why that took a big for me. It's like when he didn't perform, they got rid of him. That I was
Wow.
crazy. But yeah, so this is the video you wanted me to upload, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Watching from the beginning. It's an interesting perspective, I think. Well, not well. We could see. We could make their own mind up.
With me like a child. Will you still love me when
That's a possibility if the feds get their way and then Diddy goes to the special place and all of the problems just go away, as it looks like the prosecutors and the government really aren't making a good argument here. As, of course, we get the latest from the Diddy trial, as we're hearing some very salacious, crazy revelations unfolding right now that are just seedy, debaucherous. But is it racketeering and trafficking? That's something that even one of the witnesses is having some serious questions about, as an adult star is saying, I don't get what's going on here. Why am I even testifying? They subpoenaed him. He testified, and he had some very interesting things to say about this trial that we're going to be talking about in this particular video. So subscribe, click the notification button. We're going to get right into it, as well as hopefully getting down deep down the rabbit hole. Not the type of hole that you expect when talking about Diddy when it comes to this story, because I think there's some logical conclusions to come to right now, looking at everything that's unfolding right now, looking at how the feds are treating this situation, because I think my theory here that I have talked about from the very beginning of this is absolutely freaking true. We'll tell you what that is in just a little bit, as of course, Kid Cudi, another celebritard, another actor, another movies, music entertainment person, was testifying in federal court. This, as we are already on the 10th day of the Diddy trial. It's expected to go on a little bit longer, but a lot of people are saying, we just don't get it. We don't understand it. Okay, Kid Cudi's testifying, and there's a weird testimony over his dog being locked in a bathroom. When first talking about Kid Cudi, we were talking about how he and the federal prosecutors believe here that Diddy torched his Porsche and then came to Kid Cudi and said, "What car?" And this, as Casey, the main star witness against Diddy, was having relations with him. Casey also, she's been kind of outed here as a little bit of a dirty dog here, as there are some very interesting tidbits of testimony about her partaking in a lot of this salacious, deprived type of behavior that a lot of people report she was the one potentially orchestrating it all. And this is the start witness used against this. The story gets stranger now, as of course Kid Cudi also said that Diddy broke into his home, unwrapped his family's Christmas gifts, and shut his dog in a bathroom. Yes, that's the latest, as he was testifying. How does this prove trafficking and racketeering? No, I don't get it. I really do not get it. As Casey Ventura testified that she had a romantic relationship with Kid Cudi, which made Combs irate, and that's why Combs went after his car. And I think what the feds are trying to do here is they're trying to argue, look, he controlled everyone through violence. And okay, I get that argument. Another article that we saw a couple hours ago was this, saying bombshell Diddy images, shocking photos reveal. They're not that shocking. Looking at the images, it's like, oh yeah, there's some heels, there's some adult toys. Here's the baby oil. Oh no, Oh, the baby oil. There's the ducky too. Oh no. I'll have to talk about baby oil. I still don't understand what the feds are trying to accomplish and achieve through all of this here. As of course, another person that testified that definitely raised some eyebrows was a male adult worker of the night called the Punisher that testified. He also has a book that, of course, he's now doing interviews about, and he testified to the freak-offs and what was happening here, and he essentially described how him and Casey Ventura were doing it. They paid him to have Diddy watch. Diddy was also making some comments about this.
That's the guy I was talking to. I was just telling you about
Okay, right.
the Punisher. Yeah, and this yeah, they call him the Punisher. And this is what I mean. I mean, if this is all they have on him,
Yeah,
I mean, this is ridiculous.
kind of.
Like,
And
is this?
that situation with Kid Cudi is funny to me because she was, I guess, having an affair with Kid Cudi.
Yeah, she was seeing whatever.
Which again, I mean, this whole idea of being sex trafficked and kind of like this controlled person, but you're having an affair with a very well-known other rapper, and allegedly Puff Daddy blew his car up.
Well, yeah, but where's the proof of that? Where's the proof that it was
There's
him?
no
That
proof. Yeah, there's no proof.
so it's like it's just basically, yeah. I feel like he did it. I feel like it was Puff that did it, P Diddy that did it. So
Yeah.
therefore, it's him. It's like I don't get that because
And this is the funny thing, though. So after all of that, they collaborated together in music. They're actually cool. In fact, he didn't want to testify. He was subpoenaed, Kid Cudi. So he's not there as a willing witness. He was forced to testify. That's why people are saying he actually was taking the mick in there and making kind of jokes and making it all jokey. And basically saying, oh, this is what we alleged at the time, but we're cool, kind of cool now. We've worked on stuff since. So again, a terrible witness for them to subpoena.
So what's it looks like a witch. At this point, it just looks like a witch hunt. It's like what are they after then? What is it? Have they managed to prove that he forced people against their will to cross state lines, traffic people? Have they managed to prove that? This is what I want to know. Have they managed to do that in court? Have they got someone that said, you know what, P Diddy got a bunch of gangsters to force me to go to another state against my will, and I had to participate in these freak-offs against my will? Have they managed to do that? This is what I wanted to do. That have they managed to prove? Do they have anyone that was actually trafficked? Do they have anyone?
No. But if we keep watching the video, I think this guy makes quite an interesting point.
Yeah, because if they don't have that, then that means all this is all about is just exposing his deviant sexual behaviors.
And my thing is, what's the point? What is because there's millions of money of pounds of dollars, dollars being used to bring this prosecution forward. For what purpose?
Thank you. This is what I want to know. We've got Africa.
I can answer the question.
Building Africa.
Yes, sir.
How you doing, Africa? You all right?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Not too bad, sir. Not too bad, sir. Give us your take on this one.
So, this is my assessment. So, first of all, we it's without question that Diddy has definitely sex trafficked Cassie. And the way we know that is anytime you take somebody across state lines in the United States and there's some sort of force or coercion and you have sex with that person, that is considered sex trafficking. So in this court case, we have a situation where Diddy's personal assistant, I think his name is George Kaplan, He's testified where he's been in private jets with P. Diddy, and he's seen Diddy assault Cassie, even to the point where Cassie was like, "Isn't anybody seeing this?" And due to his moral compass, within 3 or 4 months, he quit the job. If you know Kaplan's background, he graduated from Harvard Business School. Not to say that, that's extraordinary or anything, but it just brings, to say that he's somebody who's credible. And he also, what do you call it, describe Diddy as a god amongst men. So this is not somebody who like hates Diddy. He's just somebody who is just being objective. So in a situation like that, you have all the elements that we just talked about. The jet, that's interstate commerce. The assault on Cassie and beating her in the plane, that's coercion. And then obviously we've already known that, they're having sex. They've had people who've actually come over there who were some of the what do you call it, escorts. And those people have given their testimonies and stuff. And that's also another thing too, prostitution. You know, inviting somebody to come over to have sex for monetary gain. The gentleman said he came over there. He saw Cassie in the wig. He saw Diddy wearing some kind of was it the Middle Eastern costume or something on his head.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember him saying that. Let me ask you a question, Africa. Let me ask you a question. If I was to, if I was to fly from one state to another with a female that I've been in a relationship for 11 years, and let's say from New York to LA, and when we got to LA we had sex, are you saying that then that I sexually trafficked this woman?
I'm saying that yes, according to the Man's Act, and you can look that up. Yeah, the Man's Act. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Jock Johnson. Jock Johnson was the first African American heavyweight champion in the around the 1900s, and there was a situation where he married a white woman, and he was in the train from one place to another place, and he got arrested. And then also, in fact, I can give you another case. In fact, let's see if I could.
No, hold on, Africa.
Can I just ask a quick question, Nelson?
Yeah.
Because you kind of described the what sex trafficking is, and you highlighted forcing someone to cross state lines for the purpose of having sex against their will. But then the example that you said this person gave was P. Diddy assaulting Cassie on a plane. So by that same logic, if any man is abroad with his partner, wife, girlfriend, and attacks her, he's a sex trafficker. If that's the only source of, if that's your only kind of evidence, is he attacked her on a plane, by that logic, any man that's been abroad with his partner and has attacked her is sex trafficking. And I'm sure you agree that's not true. That doesn't make sense.
Oh, that makes sense. So that's not the only situation. There's been other situations and stuff where, different hotels, different places and stuff where, you remember the lady Capricorn Clark, who's Diddy's assistant, and even remember the white girl Moore? She came and testified. You remember Diddy's mother? I said Diddy's mother. Cassie's mother also came and testified, and they showed pictures. So there's multiple people who witnessed the abuse and the coercion.
Yeah. Now the beating is one thing, and he's not on trial for beating her.
He's on trial for I think let me make sure I can get this right. He's on trial
racketeering and sex trafficking. Those are the reasons.
And then don't forget the last one: transportation for the purpose of prostitution.
Oh, but prostitution is legal in America.
Pardon me?
Prostitution is legal in America.
No, it's not. It's legal in Las Vegas, but it's not legal in America.
Well, I was just checking something here. I'll read it out. In the United States, prostitution itself is legal. meaning a person can buy sexual services and the person can work as a private prostitute or out-call escort. However, many related activities are illegal, including soliciting in a public place, curb crawling, and keeping a brothel and pimping. So prostitution, a person can sell themselves for sex, which is what those men were doing. Those men that Cassie were getting were selling themselves for sex, and they were being bought for sex. That's not illegal.
You would probably have to show your source, because don't forget, the main idea of people going to Las Vegas is because you can gamble and engage in prostitution legally. That's the appeal of going over there. Don't forget, there's been a lot of governors and stuff. Even the governor of New York, he's been put in jail for soliciting a hooker. Don't you remember that story?
Is that the black guy?
No, that's what's the white L Spitz. Let me L Spitz.
But was he curb crawling?
Yeah, he was
curb crawling.
Okay. Go ahead.
Curb crawling is illegal. Curb crawling is illegal. It says here that curb crawling is illegal. Well, no, so maybe you could put something, because this is what I brought up. I just did a quick search. Obviously, this is a Google search. Is prostitution illegal in the US? And that's what came up.
I just looked it up. It says that prostitution is illegal, and it's only legal in Nevada.
Okay. In Nevada, it's Las Vegas. That's what I was trying to say.
It says in the United States, prostitution is generally illegal, but with a notable exception in Nevada. While prostitution is illegal in 49 states, Nevada allows it in some of its counties. Maine has also partially decriminalized the practice, making selling sex legal, but buying it illegal.
Okay.
Exactly.
I mean, we would have to look at what's, prostitution is a broad term, and you'd have to really look into what, because if someone agrees to have sex with me, let's say I'm in New York and I fly them out, I'm trying to wrap my head around this. I'm trying to see how this is illegal. If this person says yes, I want I'm gonna fly out there to have sex with you, and they come over, and then after that, let's say I offer them some money or whatever. All right, but first, it's like, how is that illegal? Because even me, if I give you some money, if I give a person money now, okay, in 1910, they don't know they don't know the reasons as to why I gave them the money that I gave them. They don't know what the intention was. So how is someone that flies out to meet me in another state to have sex with me somehow, I don't know,
how can you prove it? How can you prove it?
How can you prove that? First of all, you're being flying out to prostitute yourself or to have sex, or so I can pay you some money to have sex with me. How can you prove that? You can't prove that unless that person tells you that that's the reason why you were flown out there. But that's the agreement, and it would be your word against their word. It just doesn't, to me, it's not enough evidence to prove that he was, trafficking people.
Okay, how about I would like you to listen to this real quick, and then I'll address that real quick.
Congress passed the Mann Act, also called the White Slave Traffic Act. The legislation made it illegal to transport or conspire to transport any woman or girl across state lines for the purpose of prostitution, debauchery, or any immoral purpose. The act was ostensibly passed to combat forced prostitution, but the act's broad language resulted in it being used for what some considered moral, racial, and political purposes. Notable people prosecuted under the act included Charlie Chaplin, Chuck Berry, and Jack Johnson, the first African-American world heavyweight boxing champion. In Gabarty versus United States, the United States Supreme Court was asked to interpret the reach of the act as it related to criminal conspiracy. Jack Gabarty and Louise Rolfe weren't married to each other, but from time to time, they traveled together to other states to have sex. Gabarty bought their train tickets, and Rolfe voluntarily went on each of the trips. They traveled together, but without the help of anyone else. Both Gabarty and Rolfe were convicted in federal court of conspiracy to violate the Mann Act. The United States Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit affirmed the convictions. The United States Supreme Court granted cert.
So in that case, which I just stated, Jabari versus United States, you have a situation where two consulting adults travel to another place. He didn't pay her for money. She went over there with consent. But because they went from state to state, he was charged with the Mann Act. They appealed it. The Court of Appeals still upheld it. It went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court also upheld it. So, as you know, when it comes to law cases and whatnot, you got to go by the precedents, and especially if the Supreme Court has already made this decision, you're not going to have a low-level judge come and try and interpret the law. So, on the count of prostitution, that is a fact that Diddy is going down for that. With that one,
But
we
are you saying that Cassie? Sorry, Bradford. Are you saying that Cassie's a prostitute? Are you saying that Cassie was used as a prostitute? Is that the argument?
what I'm saying is that Cassie is Lewis Roth. If you just remember the case study we just watched, so Cassie is just a woman, and Diddy is Jabari, and they were going to another state when they're having fun. This time, instead of a train, they used a plane. And we're not even talking about whether she consented, whether there was drugs, just because they crossed the state line. That one is against the Mann Act, and that alone is prostitution.
Sorry,
right there.
Africa. So
Yes.
using that logic, 70% of Americans are sex traffickers. Then
Yes.
Yeah.
You know the only difference?
what?
Go on.
The only difference is that you don't have other people's girlfriends. What do you call it? Giving you a civil suit and then trying to ask you for $30 million, and you don't have your videos on YouTube, and you don't have 300, 400 people calling in to the government.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. If I'm going to take that law, and I'm going to take that law at face value, I'm gonna say, so this law is still applicable to it. It's active today, right? This law
Yeah,
here.
that's what I'm saying. This went all the way to the Supreme Court, and this is the third one he's being tried. The prostitution one. That's what they're defining right there.
Great. Then that means the defense can just argue that every single person in America that travels with their partners across state lines in order to I don't know, enjoy a holiday where sex will be be a part of it, then that means they have trafficked that person.
Yes.
But surely the key word here is forced to. It can't just be two consenting adults going away on holiday to have sex and a crime's committed. There's got to be some force or something element to it. There's got to be a force element to it.
I think you just saw the case yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but here's what I don't get, Africa. Yeah, you've got two consenting adults saying we're going to travel to this particular part of the world, and when we get there, we're going to have sex or whatever. How is that sex trafficking? No one is being coerced, no one's being forced, nothing is being done against their will. Because in that case, the same thing can be said about what's her name, Cassie. Then, because Cassie is also a consenting participant in all of this. So if we're gonna say Diddy trafficked, then Cassie trafficked too, because she was also a part of it. Because Diddy was also went along with it.
No, so if you look up the law, which they actually tried to amend it, imagine this: they amended it to make sure that the woman is never ever charged; it's always the guy. So the moral, yeah. If you can pull it up, or I could pull it up. But the moral of the story is, you should always let her come to you, and she should always pay for it. And that's one of, to me, what do you call it? I realized that that's one of the tools that the feds keep in the toolkit, that, if they really, really want to get you, they're going to get you. You know what I mean? So, like you said, I'm not going to say all, but most actors, most athletes, most rappers, most wealthy people, or even ordinary people engage in this. But it's only a matter of time until there's attention on you and they want to get you. And this is one of the tools they could pull out.
Africa, you made a key point there, which is interesting, about when they want to get you.
Yes.
So, but based on that, do you think there's another, maybe a reason that is not public, a hidden reason behind why Diddy is finding himself under this particular issue? Is there
Not,
is there
not
something else
necessarily.
going on? Do you think?
Not necessarily. I think it's, like I said before, I think, you're the US government, you're, chilling. Next thing you know, you have somebody bring a civil case, Cassie, it becomes public. You find out that Diddy settles for 20 million, and then you look into the records and you see 200 or 300 400 citizens calling in claiming that Diddy did this, Diddy did this, Diddy touched me here, Diddy raped me here, blah blah blah. You have Little Rod file another lawsuit. So at a certain point in time, they're probably going to say, let's look into this. And then when they look into this and they find all of this, all of this craziness, then they're going to bring and this is
But
another thing too. Okay, go ahead.
but have they found, has anyone come to the stand yet? Come to court yet and said, yes, I was forced against my will to travel to another state.
Yes,
So
Cassie.
far, this trial has gone on for 10 days.
Right.
So far, have we got anyone that has said, yes, I went against my will?
Yes, Cassie.
Cassie said, I went against, because bro, they
And then
they
also,
show, they show
Cassie.
messages. They show messages that implicates her. She was the one organizing the entire thing.
Yes. So, and that's another thing too. So, and from what I see, and if you think about it critically, I imagine that. So they had about over 100 freak offs, right?
Over 100
Yeah.
what?
Freak offs,
Freak off
like the
parties.
sexual, yeah, the meeting in the hotel with the escorts and stuff. They did it over 100 times. You know that, right?
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So, in my and from the testimony that they were giving, and Cassie was very very honest too. She said she was in love with him, this and this and that. And so,
Yeah.
what I believe is, in the beginning, it's possible. She's 19, 20 years old. She's getting Diddy made the request. She's trying to, what do you call it? Getting Diddy's good graces, this and this and this
Right.
and that. So she agreed with it. But does it mean that for all the 100 times and stuff that she, what do you call it? Because it could be one time where she said no, and that's all it takes. You know what I mean? That's all it takes. And that's the case. That's the situation.
So
Where
yes,
she's saying, yeah, go ahead.
was there a time, as she said on trial, as she said, yes, there was one time
She said
that I
multiple
said
times,
no.
bro.
Huh?
She said multiple times, man. You know what I mean?
She
And
said
Right,
she said
multiple times. Yeah.
multiple times she said no. And Diddy, what did Diddy do? What did Diddy say?
Diddy raped her, beat her, you know what I mean, threatened her. They had to get plastic surgeons.
Hold on. This has come out in the last 10 days.
Yeah, man.
I didn't see that. And so far, I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen that part yet. I mean, I've seen the messages that you love Diddy, you blah blah blah, you wanted to be a part of this, and I did not see any messages where Diddy's saying, "I'm gonna go over there and do this and do that to you because you don't."
What do you call it? I don't know.
Do you have any evidence of that?
Yeah. I have the links right here to all the transcripts and stuff, so I can send it to you. Is there a way how you want me to send it to you?
Are you able to share it? And then I'll just
okay. Let's see. Yeah, let's see if I could do that. Let's see if I could do that.
Because there's no doubt about that there was a complicated relationship going on of where you had her breaking up they broke up, she'll come back, break up, come back.
I don't
think
believe
that's going to make it slightly quite difficult, maybe, to kind of push this whole kind of some of this narrative that's going on there.
Jam, I don't believe in complicated relationships. I believe that you can leave whenever you want to leave, and you can stay whenever you want to stay. All this complication nonsense, I don't believe in it. I think relationships are not that simple. Are not that hard, not that difficult, not that all you have to say is, I no longer want to be in this relationship, and go, and not call that person again. She could have done that.
Are you able to see my screen?
Hold on a second. Add to. Let me just stop sharing this, and I'm gonna add.
I mean, there's such a thing.
To be honest with you, the defense they had about that was they had this lady who came from Cornell University, and Cornell University is like an Ivy League school. and I think she's like some kind of like authority on like what do you call it, Stockholm syndrome. And she came and like gave a whole speech to like the jury on how like sometimes if you abuse certain people, they will come back to you, this and this and this and that. So I think they poisoned her mind. They poisoned their mind with that scientific stuff, and because nobody really had her credentials, it was very hard to like rebuttal. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, so what does this document says? Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura's relationships becomes violent and abusive. Was started as a whirlwind wind of celebrity meetings and drug and alcohol fueled parties. However, quickly turned frightening and violent. Miss Ventura was also exposed to the intense violence that pervaded Mr. Combs' rise to fame. For example, in one session, when Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura were using drugs together in his home, one of his security staff barged in and announced that Suge Knight, a longtime rival of Mr. Combs, was spotted at Mel's Drive's in diner in Los Angeles. Mr. Combs began to get dressed, retrieved multiple guns from a safe, and ran out of his home to where he believed Mr. Knight was
Can you just
dining.
pause 1 second, Nelson? Just 1 second.
Mhm.
So just today, I was watching on one of Piers Morgan's show. He had Suge Knight's lawyer on there, and he referenced this story. He said that story is complete fabrication. He said that Puff Daddy was terrified of Suge Knight, and the idea that he would do this in LA, which is Suge Knight's home turf, is absolute rubbish. And you know what? I kind of believe that. I believe the guy because Puff Daddy
Here-
he's
Here's
not a
the
tough
here's
guy.
the only
He's
problem
not
with
a
that though.
gangster.
Here's the only problem
He's
with
not.
that.
He's not.
They
He's not a
have
gangster.
Yeah, he's not.
the only,
Yeah.
here's
And
the
he's
only
going.
problem
And
with
he's
that.
going. And he's taking a gun. He's taking guns to a real gangster in his home turf. Come on.
Yeah.
The only problem with that is they have the personal assistant say he was in the car also.
That doesn't mean it's true.
Well,
But
that
hold
means that
on,
you have
hold on,
to.
hold on a second, hold on a second. But this is, if correct me if I'm wrong, Africa, is this the civil lawsuit that she brought against P Diddy?
Yeah, this is the civil lawsuit, and then right here is the what do you call it? The let me scroll up real quick. This is the what do you call it? The still indictment with the
Okay, so
conspiracy and stuff. Yep.
so on at least two occasions, Mr. Combs demanded that Mrs. Ventura hold Mr. Combs' gun in her purse. Miss Ventura had no familiarity with guns and was petrified that the firearm would accidentally go off in her purse. There was no clear reason why Mr. Combs required her to hold his guns, except to reinforce to his young girlfriend that he was violent, powerful, and dangerous. Okay, so far I haven't seen where he's grabbing her neck and saying,
Oh,
"You're
here
gonna
you go, right here. You got it right here. Continue.
where
Right here, 64, 65. It's all over.
six, 64, 65." Okay, cool. Over the next decade, multiple times each year, Mr. Combs would violently beat Miss Ventura, leaving bruises on her body. After every instance in which he beat Miss Ventura, Mr. Combs used his money and power to orchestrate extensive efforts to hide the evidence of his abuse, including by hiding
Well, I
Miss
believe
Ventura
that. I believe
for
that. I
days at a
definitely believe
time.
that. He's a abuser of women. So I believe that he's a domestic
Yeah,
violence guy. So
yeah.
I believe that.
In one such instance, after a party with Jay-Z, Mr. Combs beat Miss Ventura repeatedly in an Escalade, including by kicking and hitting her. He forced her out of the vehicle on Fifth Avenue, New York City. She was eventually able to hail a cab and get to her apartment in Manhattan, where she cried in fear, realizing, well, okay, so why didn't she just leave? Okay, cool. But that's domestic violence. This is what I'm trying to say. That's domestic violence. He's not, again,
That,
this doesn't
could that also be can that also be defined as coercion?
no,
No.
because
Yes.
I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest with you, Africa. To me, that is what if he was in court for
Again,
domestic
it's not about to you. It's about what's the letter of the lawyers.
no, absolutely. But I'm just saying, I'm saying it to me right now as I'm interpreting what you provided, because what I wanted was her being forced against her will to basically travel across state lines in order to participate. Let's say she turned around and said, "No, I don't feel like." Let's say some kind of messages that said, "I don't feel like going on a freak off today," and he's like, "I don't care what you want. You're still going to travel across state lines in order for you to do this." If I saw that, then I'll be like, okay, there's coercion there. And this just proves that he was violent. This is domestic violence at best. Sorry, it is domestic violence. But this does not prove what he's being accused of. He's there for trafficking.
I think if you read the whole case, like we're
Mm.
doing, there's
Of
multiple.
course, we ain't got time right now, but I would love if you know.
There's multiple times. Yeah, multiple times, man.
No, I know he beat her up. I'm not.
No, I'm talking about it, and it's actually crossed interstate lines. If it was about a domestic, just within the state would probably take it up. But it was across state lines multiple times.
Yeah, I know he beat
Different
her.
countries, different countries and stuff. He has a house in LA. He has a house in what do you call it?
Well, he has a house everywhere.
He has a house in New York, and they,
Yeah,
and
but-
they stayed in multiple different times, multiple different places. So you
Yeah,
don't
no,
think,
I
you don't
agree
think if he beat her in New York, he might beat her in LA? Or he
That's
might
what I'm
beat her
trying to
in
say. That's what.
Yeah, but that's not sex trafficking.
That's domestic violence. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, you're right. He beat her up in different states, but does that mean? Don't get me wrong. If you're saying that that's how they viewing things, that's how they seeing things, that this must mean that she was being forced to travel from thingy, from state to state. But this has nothing to do with free cops. It's just got to do with him behaving violently towards her. Shout outs to who do we have here? We've got Funny and as part of the panel who has just joined us. What's going on, Funny? Is everything all right?
How you doing, bro? You all right? Just
Not
listening
doing
in,
bad.
just to come say hello to the guys. Just join in.
Yeah.
Thanks for putting the picture up, Hassan. Let me know what you look like.
We've got Africa in here as well. Africa is giving his perspective on the whole situation, and yes, so far it's been really productive. I'm learning a lot about this, by the way.
Yeah, I wanna see if I can share this.
Hold on a second, guys. We've got 52 people watching. Shout outs to all of you guys. Welcome to Solution Podcast. It's great to have you guys here. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, of course. And if you want to join and give your opinion, feel free to do so as well. The link is in the comment section. What do you make of what you've heard so far? Funny.
I hadn't had a chance to listen to most of the episode, but from what I've seen online, and the more that I'm seeing, it's I can't see him being in prison for a long time, because I don't know what crime he's really committed besides being, involved in domestic violence, being kind of a sex pest, I guess, but that's not necessarily a crime. I can't imagine him really being done for, was it trafficking or sex trafficking, whatever it was. I know little to nothing about the case, but what little I've heard, I don't think he's really worthy of a long prison sentence.
What about trafficking?
Is there solid evidence for trafficking, or are they just throwing that in there and trying to see what sticks?
Africa has been trying to provide that, and
Are you able to see my screen?
I can put it up on this. Hold on. Africa, hold on. Let me put it up. Yeah. Go ahead.
So I think if you want to look up this, this is the what do you call it right here? You can pull it up.
By force, brought up for 18. Okay. What does it say?
The
I can't
prosecution.
see the screen properly. I can't see the screen properly. What does it say?
So there's three what do you call it? Legal elements, right?
Yeah.
That the prosecution needs to prove for it to become sex trafficking.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So first one, the defendant knowingly recruited, enticed, harbored, transported, provided, or obtained a person. Can we say that Diddy recruited her, enticed her, and transported her? And don't forget this: you know the how Diddy met what do you call it? Cassie was through his producer, Ryan Leslie. And don't yo, first of all,
Africa, Africa. So,
yeah.
Africa, can you just repeat what you said again? You said that he did what to something in ties. Can you just go over that
So I was
wording
saying
again?
that one of the legal elements that they were saying for it to be considered sex trafficking is number one, the defendant knowingly recruited, enticed, harbored, transported, provided, or obtained a person. So that
Well,
was the
let's just go with that criteria there.
pardon me?
By her own transcript, he didn't do any of that. They were in a consensual relationship, a loving relationship, according to her, a loving relationship that was, when I say complicated, no one else does agree with complicated. I meant in the sense of they would break up, get back together, break up, get together. These are her words. She
Okay,
said that he needed her. He needed her for some type of emotional support. And so the criteria that you just provided is, so for me personally, I can't see any element of that in from the
let me see if
relationship
I
how
let me see if I
she
could
describes it.
let me see if I could try and explain that.
I agree. I agree. I don't see.
So okay, so let me see if I can try and explain that. Let's not forget, Cassie was 19 years old
Yeah, I
when,
don't.
yeah, she was 19 years old when her boyfriend, Ryan Leslie, a producer at Bad Boy, brought her to Bad Boy. Did this,
Oh no, that's when you made that mistake. You should have never brought it to Bad Boy.
well, and this is something that is very, very serious. I imagine this is very, very serious in England as well. But let me explain. So Diddy signed her, and Diddy signed her to what do you call it, a 10 album deal. Yo, man, if you're a boss and you have an employee, you can't be having sex with her and dating her, man. You can't do that, man. That gets you in trouble all the time.
Okay,
You know that, right?
Africa. By that same logic, do you know who Maria Carey was dating at one point?
Who?
Maria Carey. Do you know who she was dating at one point?
Tommy Mottola.
Right? Isn't that
Yeah,
her
yeah,
boss?
yes,
Why
but
did he?
did
Why
she?
did no one say
Here's,
that
here's
about
the
him?
difference, though. Did she bring a $30 million lawsuit and say she was beaten, and then she had to what do you
No.
call, put different dicks in her mouth and different that? So let's put context.
I
With this,
heard that, but you made the point about the she was an employee, and that makes it that somehow relevant. There's loads of guys that are in the music industry dating people that are signed up to them. That doesn't mean that this particular thing, that's not a relevant part. That's what I'm saying. What you're saying is, I don't think it's relevant. The fact that she was signed to him, I don't think is relevant.
it is very, very, very relevant to it. That's the first. In fact, if you look at the civil lawsuit case, that's the first thing they bring up, man.
But
Hold on.
And it's
my
not
So
about
you're
what you
saying
think, though. It's about what the law is. That's the first.
Africa. So you're saying what you're contesting here is that what's his name? P Diddy was the boss. He signed her and became her boss, and therefore, as a boss, he should not be having sexual relationships with
Also,
employees.
and here's the evidence that I'm going to give you. Do you guys remember the first time that Cassie and Diddy hook up? Do you remember the first time that happened? This is what happened. Diddy made a fake, what do you call it? Had somebody fake, made a promoter say he was going to, what do you call it? Have Cassie do a show in Miami. They made a fake flyer. They went over there. There was no show, and Cassie was on what do you call it? Diddy's boat. Do you remember that? Are you aware of that?
I'm aware of that. I heard about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then right there, you have coercion, you have fraud. You understand what I'm saying? That's
But you also have
but my
her say,
my
but you,
issue.
but you also have her saying that she was in a consensual relationship and she loved him.
But if I was the prosecution, wouldn't I be asking in? Did you not report any of this at any time to the police? Did she not do that?
So again, they had some kind of I talked about this. The guys they had some I forgot I think her name is, since I have it on my screen, let me see if I can pull it up so you guys can see. I think her name is Hughes. Hughes, she's some kind of professor from Cornell, and she's like some kind of authority that the government uses a lot, where she talks about people with Stockholm syndrome, and so they're basically saying that it's very, very normal for Cassie to feel like, this guy is above the law, and she's scared, and she's going to stay with her captor, this and this and that. So they had that lady come over there and speak for like 2 hours and like educate the jury.
Okay.
And for some strange reason, usually what will happen is that, and don't forget, in Diddy's defense, Diddy's lawyers were saying, well, you may be an authority on this matter, but in order for this to apply to Cassie, you should have been able to diagnose Cassie. And they asked the doctor if she had had an opportunity to have an interview with Cassie and this and this and that. And obviously, the doctor had not. So, yeah, so it will be up to the jury to decide on that part. But they claim in Stockholm syndrome on that part.
Doesn't this set a very negative or a worrying precedent for women in relationships that they somehow later regret, to say that I was in an abusive relationship or a relationship that I didn't consent to? I was essentially a hostage for 10, 15 years when there was no objection during those 10 to 15 years, which I guess in a sense could set a precedent of you abused me after I left the relation. I'm stating abuse after I've left the relationship, or even though I've consented to everything for X amount of years.
I believe so, and I think that case is happening right now with I don't know if you can see my screen right now with DGG and Haley. I don't know if you know about those guys, but
The
they're
actress.
Yeah, the
like,
actress.
yeah. So the Haley is, she has a restraining order. Actress is accusing him of physical and emotional abuse and this and that. Yeah, so
I'm sorry.
I think it will, but
Hold on,
That's the mermaid, the woman that played the mermaid.
exactly.
Yeah. Hold
The
on,
black-
guys. Wait a second. I just googled something because I was interested, and this in the U.S. there's no federal law prohibiting an employer from dating an employee. Um, However, many companies have policies against workplace relationships, especially those involving supervisors and subordinates, due to potential issues like favoritism, harassment, or legal claims if the relationship breaks down. But in the US, there is no federal law prohibiting an employer from dating an employee. This is what amazes me the most, because everyone was aware that she had signed to Bad Boys, and everyone was aware that she was dating P. Diddy.
As you can see from the last part that you read, what did it say? It said unless there's what harassment and blah 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 after it breaks down. This is what we have right here.
Yeah, no, hold on. So if the world was aware, so if there is no federal law prohibiting that type, an employer from dating an employee, and if the whole world knew because he would take her everywhere, uh, where's the and plus we've got the text message as well that says that she was in a loving relationship and she loved him for 11 years, blah 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 blah. Where is the coercion in all of this? This is what I want to know. Where is the yes, did he get physically abusive at times? Yes, that's domestic violence, but I give
you one good one.
All right.
So there was a time where Cassie claimed she was on. I think they were coming from Cannes. They went to the Cannes festival, and they were coming back to America. This is after Diddy had thrown her off like some kind of yard, and she had hurt herself or whatnot. So she decided to sit in another seat. Diddy was able to convince somebody else to move from that seat, and he went and sat next to her, and then he showed her videos of the freak-offs. And when he showed her videos of the freak-offs, he threatened her that he's going to put those videos out as soon as they get back to the States if she doesn't do another freak-off. And he also asked her that, all of this could go away for $20,000. So Cassie came back to the States. She emailed her mom. She told her mom. Her mom took a home equity loan out on her house, and they wired that $20,000 to Diddy. In Diddy's defense, and within a few days, the $20,000 was returned. However, the government is saying that right there, that's extortion, that's mail fraud, and that's coercion, and that's another.
Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence of P. Diddy showing the footage to Cassie on the plane?
That was Cassie's testimony.
There you go. That's not evidence. That's not enough
So the
evidence.
evidence, then how did the $20,000 get wired to his account?
I mean, Pete. I'm sure P Diddy send her money all the time. I mean, how was she able to live the lifestyle that she was living?
You're not answering my question. I'm saying, how did the $20,000 get wired from
I
Cassie's
don't.
account?
I don't know.
Well, do we have?
That's what I'm explaining to you.
Has that been proven? But has that been proven though?
Yeah,
that the
this is
money-
report of law. They talked about this.
Well,
Yeah,
then
this
you know, if that has been proven, then yeah, he's banked the rights.
didn't you remember that Cassie's mother was?
No, but the thing is, what I'm trying to find out is how do you prove that the £20,000 that was wired to that
Yeah, you
account
can't really.
was for that purpose?
It's just
You know,
Cassie's testimony.
yeah, it's like but that's what I'm trying to say because
It would be the mother. Has the mother testified also that happened?
Yeah, are you guys able to see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cassie's mom took out loan to pay for Diddy's Diddy after Fred's. I understand all of that as if he needed 20 grand for it. That it's almost like a joke. I mean, you're talking about someone who's in the billions. Why would he need? Okay, give me 20,000 and I'll give you all this evidence back to you. What I'm saying is,
that's because he had the what do you call it? Don't forget, Cassie signed to him. That's supposedly his girl. He knows her financial her background, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he pays her.
Yeah,
I
but
find
that
it weird.
doesn't.
I'm not saying it's not impossible. And
here's another thing too. You know what is very, very damaging about the whole thing? When Cassie's mother came over there and she gave her testimony and they asked Diddy's lawyers, do they want to talk to Cassie's mom? Do you know what they said?
What?
No.
What?
Interesting.
They said no, man.
She said no.
No, Cassie's Diddy's lawyer said no.
Yeah, Diddy's lawyer said no. Yeah.
Yeah, but
so then that again, so that's even worse because usually, you know, as you know, you want to be able to give your side of the story, but this time, so that's on record, not contested.
Well, it could be a case of it could be a case of cross-examining a somewhat elderly lady. Could look bad on their.
I understand that.
Side,
yeah, they could have decided that was the situation, but in either way, the fact that they decided not to cross-examine her lets you know that there's a smoking gun over there. Wouldn't you agree?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. It could be a case of
you just let them make that claim.
No. It could be a case. It could be It could be a case of the people could look at the claim and go, "Well, just because you're saying it, we don't necessarily believe it's true." Okay. That's one. Two. It could be a case of we don't want to look worse than we really are because she looks more like a victim than we do, and us cross-examining her may us look more predatory and such. So just let her speak and say whatever she wants to say without evidence and what have you.
And three,
there's a price to pay for that, right?
It could be true. It could be true. But my thing is, let's say that's true. You're not gonna how many years is that in court? Is that even a crime that would be result in someone going to jail? I don't think so. I mean,
yes.
Nah.
That's extortion and Milford, and that's part of the predicates for the RICO.
Okay, listen, guys.
He gave the money back.
Bro. This is how I see it. A guy who has $1 billion in his account tried to
but here's a bit but Nelson, we are dealing with, let's not forget who we're talking about. This is just me playing a bit of devil's advocate. We are talking about a guy that is not, full ticket, on drugs, a bit of a control freak, a bit not a nice person. So is it beyond him to do it? No, it's not.
No. What I'm saying is, Jam, what I'm saying is, if someone who has $1 billion in his account, who has all that power, he could have easily turned around and
but
said,
he wants to punish. He wants to punish someone.
Hold on. You could have just showed her the footage. Okay, that's how I would have done it. Here's the footage. That sounds crazy. Then me saying it like that.
Yeah.
Here's the footage. If you don't say what if you don't do what I'm telling you to do, yeah, guess what? This footage is gonna get out there. One thing I'm not gonna do with all that money, with £1 billion or $1 billion, is say, if you give me 20 grand, I'll give you all this evidence that I could always use it on you. I could always use to manipulate you. I'm gonna give you all this evidence to you for 20 grand. I'm sorry, it's just not realistic.
Well, to be fair, he's not that he needs the money. It's the case of I can extort you. I can take. It's
Yeah,
a power
yeah,
trip. It's right.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
want. It means nothing to me, but it means a lot to you, type thing.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
No, look at what's being offered here. 20 grand for all this footage. Remember, the footage is was what he's using to control her. Why would he? How? Why on God's good green earth is he going to say? Is he going to sell all the stuff that he's using to control her? Okay, for 20 grand.
It's just you're using logic in a context of a predatory person. Well, alleged predatory person. The idea that
That's
he's showing her footage of him having his girlfriend having sex with other men and him being involved in some way already shows you he's crossing the lines of morality. The idea of going to the beyond that and saying, "Hey, give me money to put you further in some sort of further distress," is not beyond the scenario. It's not about the money or logic or control. It's about how can I say torturing someone to suffice your sadistic nature, possibly, allegedly.
makes sense to
Yeah.
me.
No, it doesn't. To me, what would make sense is him just showing her the footage and say, "You better do what I'm telling you to do, or else." I mean, to me, that would have made more sense. That I mean, personally, guys, if you see it differently, that's cool. To me, that's a real narcissist. Someone who says, "Okay, here's the footage. Either do what I want you to do, or that's it, or this goes out." Not for 20 grand, and then he sends the 20 grand back again. It's like as if he doesn't know that whenever you transfer money to to another person, it doesn't get recorded. If he was trying to cover his tracks, is an idiot for requiring her to wire 20 grand over to him. It's like that's evidence. That's evidence that she could later use against him. And now it's being used against him. That's a stupid thing to do. Wouldn't you guys agree?
Yeah,
I believe Diddy's stupid.
yeah, stupidity and illogical behavior isn't necessarily the modus operandi here. It's
I believe
about
Diddy's stupid.
abuse and extortion and harm. And why would Andrew Tate record himself beating a woman with a belt? Why would you record that? It doesn't make sense. It's the predatory nature of it all. It defies logic. It goes into satisfying the sadistic nature in a sense. So it's not he doesn't have to do any of this. He could just hire prostitutes all day. It's a power trip, allegedly, in this whole situation. So the logical aspect has to be not priority here, in my opinion.
It just doesn't make sense. And that 20 grand doesn't prove anything necessarily. I'm trying to think what can they pin if they could pin something like that. If what Africa has brought up could be constituted as coercion, or not. We've already seen that an employer can have a relationship with an employee. There's no federal law that goes against it. So we already know that he had a public relationship with her. Everyone was aware of her, even though she was signed to him. We already know all of that about him. Now, I was trying to see if, clear evidence of coercion. And when Africa brought up this, him being on the plane and showing her this, I was like, okay, that's a good one. But after thinking about it, he goes, first of all, that doesn't prove anything. I mean, how do you prove that on the plane he did what she's claiming he did? How do you prove that? And like just the same way I've argued against what you guys are saying, I can see their lawyers, the defense, arguing the same way about making the same arguments against that claim from Thingy. So I don't buy it. I don't buy it. It's not enough to stick. It's not enough to. I don't think it's gonna do
I
the
agree with you. I haven't seen enough for him to be convicted of what's.
Yeah, I'm not that convinced. We've got 60 of you guys watching. Shouts to everyone, guys. Welcome to the Solution Podcast. We've got Africa here. Africa's killing it. He's got a lot of information. Africa, how long have you been looking into this?
Oh, I'm a huge fan of. And by the way, I like to stick to just the facts. No emotions on it. Even though I'm a huge fan of P Diddy, but I just like to be objective. So since it first came out, I've been looking at it. I was a little bit surprised that Diddy settled, and so I was just like, oh man, why did he settle? What I mean? Let me look into the case to see what's really going on. or at least what both of them agreed to, which I guess is what's they put into the court documents. And when I look at it, man, it's not looking good. You know what I'm saying? Like, for instance, when we talk about the arson, yes, I guess people want to see a video of Diddy over there burning the car before they say Diddy, before they say Diddy's guilty. But for instance,
So can I just say this quickly? So
Yeah, go
this is a bit of conspiracy theory now. So this is what some people are saying. I can't disprove it or prove it, but this is what some people are saying. The reason why he's been taken to trial is because he sued this European liquor company and won. And there's another reason, again, to do with some type of corporate hidden reason. I don't know if you guys have heard of this.
Yeah. It was roughly the same time.
So what's you guys' thoughts on that?
I'm at first, if I can comment, I wasn't believing that, but then when I've heard there's a lot more to do with this than this particular corporate case that you're talking about is a lot more important financially and in terms of the precedent that it sets. I'm starting to believe it because the timing of it is a bit suspicious. One, two, he's not the only executive in the world or even on the world stage that does this kind of stuff. The fact that he's being exposed in every way and they're going out for him, it does kind of, it's not something to be thrown away or dismissed initially so easily.
And it's interesting because there's this other guy, Abercrombie Fitch, the guy, the executive.
Yeah,
he was doing the same thing with young boys and teenage, male escorts, male prostitutes. And how come he's not on trial?
Bro, sorry, what did you say the conspiracy theory was again?
There's a guy called Abercrombie Fitch. There's
no, in relation to P. Diddy. In relation to P. Diddy.
Yeah, so there's a story, Nelson. You can we can look this up. Actually, you can bring it up. Hassan probably is a good person to fully find it.
I can find a video.
About there's a bit.
What you guys are talking.
Yeah, there's this conspiracy, Nelson, that the reason why they're going up to Puff Daddy now is because he sued successfully this European liquor company and got a massive payout, and I guess some type of revenge. That's one conspiracy. Africa, have you heard of that or no?
I've heard of that, but I don't believe that to be true.
Yeah, okay. My thoughts on it is, even if that was true, if Diddy's guilty of what he's being accused of, it would basically be irrelevant whether those guys went after him in this way or not.
Exactly.
Because the one thing I do find very suspicious, though, that footage of him beating Cassie.
Yeah,
the feds held on to that for 10 years. Now that's suspicious to me. They held on to that footage for 10 years. Why?
Why release it now?
Yeah, I mean that's one thing that we can't ignore that part. You're holding on. You're holding on for 10 years to that footage.
Yeah, that makes no sense. Yeah, that makes no sense at all. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense at all. Yeah, how can you hold on to that footage for that long?
Well, also, how did they get hold of the footage? Is another thing. The hotel had the footage.
They didn't get a hold of the footage for 10 years. They're saying in the court case, they what do you call it? They asked them when did they start investigating P. Diddy, and they started investigating the federal government, U.S. federal government. They said they started investigating P. Diddy after Cassie filed her lawsuit.
Okay, so when he committed that assault, the hotel footage captured it. Okay, he then paid.
The hotel footage did what? You said the hotel footage did what?
It's the hotel that captured that footage. It's the hotel security cameras that captured that.
Yes.
So he then paid for the footage.
Yes, which is bribery.
For that footage.
Bribery,
right? And they gave it to him.
Would you agree that's bribery?
Yeah.
Well, no, because they gave it to him.
No, my man.
But let me finish my quick point though. But we can come back to the bribery thing. I believe. Well, it makes sense for the hotel to then also give that footage to the police. So the question is, when did they give that footage to the authorities?
So they didn't give the footage to the police, and the main reason you know that is because you remember the hotel people just settled with Cassie, and the Cassie is going to get $10 million, right?
From
know
the
that, right?
hotel?
Yeah, you know that, right?
No, I didn't know that actually.
Yeah. Cassie's going to be hitting 30 million, 20 million from Diddy, 10 million from the hotel people. Yeah, they helped.
Why? Why?
Why?
Well,
Come on.
yeah, why?
Why would the hotel pay her $10 million?
Yeah.
So damages.
First of all, there's this guy called what's his name? Israel. You know, there's he's now a police officer in what do you call it? LA. You know who I'm talking about? The guy who was in the camera who actually went and talked to Diddy and Cassie whilst Diddy was beating her in the video. You know the gentleman I'm talking about?
No, I don't know him.
Okay, well, first of all, he's also coming to the stand too. He's what do you call it? He said Diddy offered him money to let the camera go away, and Diddy try to fight him, this and that over there. So he's also going to come testify as well. But anyway, so what do you call it? So first of all, just like you said, they should have notified the police. They didn't notify the police.
Okay.
And so so Cassie is suing for what do you call it? I don't know what she's suing for. I don't know the legal
So
terms.
are you saying the hotel held on to the footage? Is what you're saying? How did the police get it?
Pardon me?
So the police must have subpoenaed the hotel for the footage.
Of course.
Okay, so how would
as soon as they start investigating everybody, they subpoenaed everybody, like Diddy's personal assistants and all those people, and even to be honest with you, I'll be very honest with you. I didn't think Cassie anticipated the feds having a federal case. She just wanted to get the money. So she just filed a civil case, and then the feds then took on the real case, because she's not going to come to court and then come and say, yeah, man, my husband was FaceTiming me, but I was still fucking Diddy. She's not going to.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that, because I'm still confused about what happened.
Yeah. So that blindsided her. That blindsided her. You know what I mean? That blindsided her. And that's not
so hold on.
Yeah.
She was having sex with Diddy.
Yeah.
And then she FaceTimed the husband.
Yeah. Listen, man. Brian.
Wow.
No, the husband FaceTimed her.
Why?
What do you mean?
Why did she?
So hold on. So the husband was a freak. Then the husband is a freak too.
No. Listen.
Why did she pick up?
Okay. Listen to this. So this is the problem. She's claiming, as you already know, Diddy's an animal. Diddy was abusive. Diddy was beating me. This and that. This is after everything is done. She's moved on. She's with her husband. Right. They're married. She goes and meets Diddy, and she's smashing Diddy. And then the husband FaceTimes, and she doesn't pick up. So Brian Steele, if you read the transcripts properly, he's figured out the whole thing. And this is funny, because this is what he told Kid Cudi. He asked Cudi, was it true that Miss Ventura was dating you and dated P. Diddy at the same time, but was playing you guys against each other? And Cudi said yes. And then he was like, yeah, I agree. Cassie played our client too, just like she played you. Oh. And then he went out to state the case about, her FaceTime and this and that. Like, for instance, why would he asked her, why did Cassie give Diddy your address? If you guys were like dating. knowing that Diddy was what he could. And here's another thing. On Tuesday, man, Diddy might be done on Tuesday, because the girl who's his real personal assistant, the girl they're calling Capricorn Clock, she was the girl who called Kid Cudi saying, hey, Diddy has forced me to drive the car. We're in front of your crib right now. Diddy's inside of your crib. And that's when Cudi called and called Diddy on the phone and said, motherfucker, you're in my house. And supposedly Diddy just said, I just want to talk to you. You know what I'm saying? And then And then Cudi said, yo, are you in my house? Diddy didn't respond. And he was like, yo, I'm coming to my house. I'll be there in 15 minutes. Diddy said, I'll be here. Now, so Capricorn Corn on Tuesday.
None of what you're saying is illegal.
And it kind of makes Cassie look less of a victim, right?
Right, it does. 100%.
It doesn't matter whether Cassie is a victim or not. I'm just saying on Tuesday, they're saying they have somebody who's going to come and stand, who's Diddy's personal assistant, saying that She took Diddy to Kid Cudi's house for what do you call it, Diddy to confront her, and that's how they were able to burn down Kid Cudi's car.
But he's not going to get done for that, yeah. He's not going to get done for burning any car because no evidence.
That's the evidence
No
right
evidence.
there. The person coming over there.
Nah, I guarantee you, I'll put money on it. He would not be done for that. There's no evidence that he burned the car down.
What are you talking about, man? Your personal assistant is putting you over there after you told Cassie that you're going to blow up his car?
It doesn't matter, bro. It's just words. There's no evidence. There's no physical evidence. Remember, somebody, I mean, he at best he can say he said it, and one of his goons went and did it. But there's no way that
that's the problem right there. So, for instance, if you look up the charge, they said the charge is arson with attempt and conspiracy. So, to prove arson in court usually involves a combination of physical evidence, expert testimony, witness statements, and circumstantial evidence. So what is the physical evidence? The physical evidence is the car that, they showed all the pictures and everybody saw it. The police came over there, took pictures, so everybody's seen the car. What is the expert testimony? The expert testimony will be the police officers and all the fire people came and did the reports. In Diddy's defense, when they did the DNA test, it came back that it was a woman who, DNA was on the Molotov cocktail.
Doesn't that throw out the case that you have the 100%. Testimony of someone who has a motive to throw you under the bus, and then on top of that, you've got DNA tests of you not being there, but somebody else doing it.
A woman being there.
Yeah.
Exactly. Also, when did this happen? When did this happen? What year? What's the statute of limitations on this anyway?
Oh, I don't think there's any statute of limitation on that. Don't forget, the feds have a 97% conviction rate, man. They didn't have to bring this case to Diddy unless they felt comfortable that they had all their ducks in a row before they brought the case against Diddy.
Well,
it may not be a case of putting him in prison. It may be a case of, can we take this guy to trial because he's ruining our liquor business and put his name in the dirt? Maybe that's another motivation.
Did you find any videos about that, Hassan? Or no?
I've got the video on the screen now.
Play it.
Sean Diddy Combs sues NBC for $100 million over its Peacock documentary about him. According to docs obtained by E! News February 12th.
This might be the wrong one. Let me get the right one.
Did he win this case, though?
Yeah, I'll play it. I'll find the other one.
The Bad Boy Records founder filed a lawsuit against NBC Universal seeking $100 million after Peacock, the streaming service owned by the media company, released the documentary Diddy, The Making of a Bad Boy. In the filing, Combs, who is currently in jail on sex trafficking and racketeering charges, accuses NBC Universal of defamation and alleged that the company maliciously and recklessly broadcast the documentary, which included claims that the rapper committed crimes like serial murder and sexual assault of minors without having a shred of evidence. The filing reads, in making and broadcasting these falsehoods, among others, defendants seek only to capitalize on the public's appetite for scandal without any regard for the truth and at the expense of Mr. Combs' right to a fair trial. In particular, Combs alleges that the documentary, released on Peacock on January 14th, implied he killed his ex, Kim Porter, who died in 2018 at age 47. Kim dated Combs on and off for over a decade before they split in 2007. The lawsuit states, the documentary maliciously accuses Mr. Combs of murdering the love of his life and mother to his children, Kimberly Porter, despite the fact that the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office has confirmed that her death was from natural causes and that there has never been any evidence of foul play. The documentary advances the false narrative that it cannot be a coincidence that Ms. Porter and others in Mr. Combs' orbit have died in a malicious attempt to insinuate that Mr. Combs murdered them. Kim's cause of death was officially determined in 2019 to be lobar pneumonia, with the manner of death being natural, according to the Los Angeles County Department of Medical Examiner Coroner. E! News reached out to NBC and Peacock for comment on the lawsuit, but has not heard back. Combs' suit against NBC isn't the only legal battle he's facing. The 55-year-old is currently awaiting his May 5th trial over federal charges of racketeering, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Combs, who was arrested in September, has pleaded not guilty to all three charges. He has also publicly denied the allegations, writing on Instagram in December, I did not do any of the awful things being alleged. E! News, NBC Universal, and Peacock are all part of the NBC Universal family.
Just out of curiosity, coincidence, the same thing happened to what's his face? What's that guy called?
Bill Cosby.
The Bill Cosby. It was CNBC he was suing as well.
Yeah.
And he
And
had
also,
the same
also there's the oil. They wanted the oil in his house as well, under his house as well.
The liquor company that you guys are talking about, Diageo, isn't that company from England?
And that's European. It might be UK.
Yeah, man, that's from
But
England.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, again, you guys don't believe it's connected, but who knows? These days.
Yeah, Diageo is from England.
What? We got a new law that says they got to draw blood in your house from you before you can defend yourself.
We need a rapper.
Yeah.
Rappers are the last people in this country that can kind of get away with almost anything.
Well, rappers are honest. A lot of them, even though they might lie about how much money they have and stuff, they do. There's a certain honesty to
check out this one called Nate the Lawyer. Check out Nate the Lawyer. He breaks it down properly in like 2 minutes or so, and I think it will change you guys' opinion if you guys watch that. Nate the Lawyer. Check to see if you can pull that up.
Is this Nick the Lawyer? You said
Nate, N-A-T-E.
N-A-T-E.
Yeah, Nate's the Lawyer. Yeah, man. He breaks it down and it just gives just the facts. No,
And is he talking about
Well,
the case?
I'm not gonna lie. I do find it because I mean, what Puff Daddy was doing, these sex parties and all that, which is what it kind of gives him the notoriety, and then we have this case off the back of these sex parties. These are things that happens all the time in so-called high society. If you look at Hugh Hefner was running a pimp brothel, basically. You tell me that those people were being solicited around and traveled around women. The guy died without a scratch on his name. So I think there maybe is a little bit of double standards as well with this stuff.
The only thing I could say he could be done for is paying people to basically participate in sexual events that he was organizing. That's the only thing I could say maybe is a crime.
Say again, Nelson.
Like if I pay people to participate in a sexual event that I'm organizing, let's say a freak off, and I pay these people, so these people are coming in thinking they're gonna get paid once they engage in what it is that I'm telling them to engage sexually, and I give them money for it. That's the only thing I could see that that's a crime. It would be regarded as a crime.
Don't forget that the cocaine and the drugs too. Wouldn't you also say that's a crime?
The cocaine and the drugs. That's the thing with the cocaine and the drugs. It's like, okay, who brought that in? Because no one denies in these Hollywood parties there's plenty of cocaine and drugs that go around. Everyone always talks about it. So I'm thinking no one's really gonna get done for that.
We have a situation where a day or even 2 days before they've told his lawyer that they're gonna come pick him up, he has drugs in his hotel room, man, with the baby, everything. Come on, man.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's just be objective. Now, the drugs that they saw,
he's a drug addict. There's no doubt about that. He's a drug addict.
Drugs they saw in his Miami.
Is it illegal to purchase drugs?
Come on, man. What are you talking about, man?
Yeah,
I'm asking. Is it illegal? So, is he gonna do? I mean, it's not supplying the drugs; is purchasing drugs.
But he's not being charged for it, though. So that's the key part. He's not being charged for
drugs, man.
No, that's the point I'm trying to make. It's so irrelevant, like things like purchasing drugs. Because
it's irrelevant, man. There's people in jail who just had like 2 grams of cocaine in America.
But he's not being charged for it, though. That's what I'm saying. He's not being charged for drugs.
Yes, he is being charged for drugs. He's being charged for drugs and drugs possession and drug distribution.
Okay,
we just saw the indictments.
All right, I'll show you that.
Yeah, please show me. Yeah, please show me the charges again because I'm trying to.
And if you guys, what do you call it? Yeah, you should check out Nate. Like I said, Nate the lawyer. He pulled that. Check out Nate the lawyer. If you,
I just wanted to play this little clip of him talking about the lawsuit, and then get to Nate the lawyer.
I got you.
Go on.
The situation's in the courts now, so I'm gonna share with y'all what I can. This is all public record. But basically, I was called to have a meeting with Diageo, and they knew that I was kind of killing things in the culture, and they were trying to fix their diversity problem. And through that, a meeting was set up, and I told them, you know, I want to be an owner, that I have these ideas from promoting parties at Howard, just remembering that I would always get the door and never get the bar. And so I said, I have aspirations to have Black-owned brands owned by Black people behind the bar and a part of your organization. They're the biggest distributor of spirits in the world, biggest maker of spirits in the world. So we get a test project. I'm looking at their portfolio, and they say we can start something from scratch. But I'm looking at their portfolio, and I remember one night I was having a great time with Ciroc. I had some Ciroc. It was made by grapes, and I remember, you know, having just such the greatest time. And so the light bulb went off in my head. I said, I don't want to wait and develop nothing. Let me show you what I could do with Ciroc. Let me show you how I could turn your revenue around. They were losing $40 million a year. And I went and turned it around and took it to 2.6 million cases from 40,000 cases. Okay. And so this is something that's never been done.
Clap it up for that.
So 15 years later, even though I had that success, I was always fighting for Ciroc not to be pigeonholed, not to be pigeonholed as a Black brand, not to be pigeonholed as an urban brand. I already went through that. I went through that with Sean John. They put me in the urban section. I had to go and disrupt the fashion industry, pull up on Fashion Week and show them what that Black excellence swag is about. And that's what we did with Sean John. And so with Ciroc, it was the same thing, get into the spirits industry. No matter what industry I went into, I always came up against this ceiling that they just wanted to keep me in the colored section. I would say for businesses, you have white-only business, just like you have white-only bathrooms back in the days, and you have Black-only business. And so my fight is to always make sure that we could just do business. I want to be treated equally like anybody else. And so that's what the fight is about. And it's not me just fighting for me. I'm fighting for us. Because whatever bar I set, y'all have to come behind me on that bar, and I want to make sure that it's right. So that's what the fight is about, simply put. And the last things to make it clear was with Deleon. I still own Deleon, okay? So with Deleon, I sent my people.
Before you tell the story about that, just talk about the process of getting Deleon, right? Because it was you proved yourself with Ciroc, and so now there's an opportunity to create something else.
With a lot of, first of all, corporate America is made and built for white men. So when you're going into corporate America, usually your entryway is to help them with their diversity problem. But at the end of the day, you want to be able to open up doors. Sometimes you got to take that opportunity and get in. And so that's what I did with Ciroc. But I told them I don't work for nobody. Everything in my portfolio I own. So you guys have to know my ultimate dream is a tequila. But I was like, I really love tequila. And this was before the whole tequila craze. So it's like you make a deal. You make a deal like, I'm going to advance this for you so then we could be good partners and you could give me what I want, which is my opportunity for me to own my brand and to be able to build generational wealth for my kids and my people. And I just need the same 24 hours as y'all giving everybody else in your portfolio. And I couldn't get that. I had to send my people down to Mexico. And this is just to tell you what the fight is about. They went down to Mexico. And when they got down there, they found out that there was 0 agave planted for Deleon. So there was no plan for us to be successful. There was no equal treatment. The other brands, they had agave planted. They had no agave planted for me. And sometimes you have to go check even your partners to see what's really going on. And so when I saw that, I was like, nah, I'm going to fight because it's bigger than me. It's about not just me, it's about we, it's about all of us. So I chose my purpose over profit. And that's the whole Deleon situation.
Yeah, you brought up distribution. Yeah, clap it up for that. You brought up distribution, and you come from the music world, and so distribution is a.
Hold on, I need to say this. I need y'all to still support Deleon. You know, we gonna win this. Believe that. Still support Deleon, y'all.
Still owned by a black man. It's owned by a black man. Owned by a black man. You come from the music world where distribution means one thing. For some of the audience who may not be familiar, I'm sure they could consume spirits, but they don't really know what it means to have distribution inside of that space. What does that look like when you're building a brand like Deleon and Ciroc?
Yeah. Supply and distribution is everything. Whether you came from the streets, we all know that. We learned that at a very young age. And so no matter how I market a product, if they just keep me in black neighborhoods through the distribution, I can never grow. I can never be as great as I could be or as great as we can be. You know what I'm saying? I had to go from me to we. And so when I started really looking at every decision I was making, I was like, that this is something that I have to change. I can't just come and get this check and not be changing the way the ecosystem is. So if you want to have a successful brand, you have to have, number one is you have to have the supply to meet the demand, and then you have to have the distribution. And so if people control your supply and control your distribution, they control your future. And so that's what I'm fighting for right now.
Yeah, you should check out Nate the Lawyer. And then I think somebody asked about the drug charge. I can show you the drug charge real quick.
Well, I guess what that video was highlighting is that he had some type of distribution deal with this top liquor company, spirits company, and I think at some point it went sour, I'm assuming, and then he sued them and won, is what I'm understanding from that video. Well, that's the kind of, that names the company that he's apparently was in some type of contest lawsuit or something, and that's the reason why some people are saying this multinational company put pressure on the government, I guess, to expose him. A bit of a long shot one, but I guess it's one that some people do believe in.
Yeah, no company is gonna put pressure on Uncle Sam. Best believe that.
Yeah, probably right on that point.
But I'll be honest with you, it's also cutthroat, isn't it? So, for example, if you're causing trouble for us, or you're not going according to our agenda, you're not playing by our rules, and I came across some things that I can use to slow you down. People play dirty games all the time. So it's like, so he did this to Cassie, yeah. Oh, he's got a history of doing this and that and that. Okay, we'll use that against him. You know what I'm saying? We'll kill off that competition because we don't want that around. I mean, that it could be that as well. And
here's my rebuttal to that. Would you say that didn't he have an opportunity to settle the case with Cassie?
But I just want to play this video for like 30 seconds. It just sums up, just like 30 seconds. That's it. If that's okay, guys.
All right, good.
Diddy sues Diageo, who is the owner of Ciroc, for racism or something like that. Diageo apparently, I think they might have lost the lawsuit. Diageo allegedly sends out private investigators to start snooping around and seeing some shit that Diddy might do. There's one way that you could nullify their contract, and that is if he breaks a morality clause. So if you are charged with a federal crime, that might be enough to break your contract, right? Because, for example, if you're the ambassador of a brand, but then you're charged with a felony, you can't stay on as the ambassador for the brand, so that would nullify it. So maybe in an effort to save the $1 billion payout or whatever it was, they tell these private investigators dig up as much as possible. They've got connections to feds. I mean, this is the liquor lobby at the end of the day, right? This is a very powerful lobby. They start giving them this information, and then the feds go after it. They have a real case. Diddy's.
If it's true that there's a morality clause, this is an open shut case for me.
That's very interesting.
If there's a morality clause, it's an open and shut case for me. I can't imagine the morality clause being untouched by a multi-billion-dollar liquor company. It's all a bit too murky. The whole situation. It's bringing up CCTV footage from 10 years ago, so on and so on, of a man who's known to be illicit and have depraved sex pursuits. And now all of a sudden it's
that wasn't known though. That was not known.
Oh, we've all heard of Diddy parties, haven't we not?
No, but I mean, if you got private investigators, I mean, if they're well paid ones, and that's their sole objective is to find dirt on someone, we don't underestimate how what they can find. Do not underestimate. They can speak to people who know Cassie. They can say, "Hey, Cassie," could be like, "Hey, there's a time when Cassie was beat up in this hotel. We knew about it." "Oh, really? What hotel was that?" And then there you go.
What's a morality clause? What's a morality clause? Morality.
I'm assuming it's you behaving in an immoral way that for it nullifies anything that the company has to pay you out for because you're ruining the brand.
Yeah, morality according to whose standards?
Corporate standards. So abuse of women.
Yeah. What else? But that's not. He's not being tried for domestic violence, is he? He's not on trial for domestic violence, right?
No, he's not.
So, what else?
Would you say doing cocaine is immoral?
I'm a Christian. Yes, that would be a sin.
In America, too, if you do cocaine, in some companies and stuff like that, even though weed is legal in the States, even weed is frowned upon, let alone like cocaine and shit.
Yeah, but I'm sorry. Every time I hear about all these parties that these rich people be having, I mean, drugs is always part of the.
It's always part of the game, and everything is cool again until somebody says it's not cool.
No, absolutely. I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. But is that such a big deal?
Big time. Big time deal. Yeah, man. So I'll give you an example. Let's say I'm in college. Yeah, in college and stuff like that. You go to the bar, you get wasted and shit. You're going out, you see some girl, she sees you, she's like, "Oh my God, she's wasted and stuff. She wants to go back with you." Bro, don't go back with her. You know what I'm saying?
Don't go back with her at all.
Don't go back with her. Because she could say that she was impaired and she didn't really want to make that decision. And that could happen after, you smash her and then you start smashing like 2 or 3 of her. You should get jealous because you're smashing her other friends and stuff. So since you can pull that stunt. So you being a smart person, you should know like, nah. You know what I mean? We got to do it when you're sober. You heard?
No, but
you got to even get paperwork, all types of shit. But there's a lot of people in America. Yeah, go ahead. I'm listening.
No, but even these days, a woman can withdraw consent at any time. She can she can even turn around and say, "Yes, I consented it at first, but during the actual act itself, I felt uneasy and I felt all of that type of stuff." And no, she doesn't have to tell you to stop. She can just say, "I felt uneasy." She can say, "I felt like I didn't want to continue anymore, but because he was doing it, I felt forced to just continue." And you can be done for that.
Of course. And so when you reach a certain level and a certain stature, it's kind of like known that you're supposed to know, like, yo, man, the girls are here to finesse me, and my job is to make sure they don't finesse me. Like, that's just how it is. It's unfortunate, but I mean, at Diddy's level, he's supposed to know that. Come on, man. You know what I mean? Diddy's supposed to know that, man.
But forget what everyone is saying now. What do you guys? I know what the law says, and I know how they can twist the law. But do you think he's guilty of anything? What do you guys think he's really guilty of?
He's guilty of every single thing that he said he is guilty of. In fact, what do you call it? Funny. Just play the Nate the Lawyer stuff, and then I'll explain real quick. Because
we still have a
let me answer that question quickly. Yeah. So I think he's guilty of domestic violence, no doubt about it. He's guilty of purchasing narcotics and even maybe giving out narcotics. And that's it from what I can see.
I think he's guilty of winning a lawsuit against a major liquor corporation. That's it.
Interesting. Okay. Interesting.
Nate the lawyer. Nate the lawyer. Nate the lawyer. Check that one out. Nate the lawyer.
Is this Nate the lawyer?
Yeah, check him out. Here we go.
Play it.
Is this? Yeah. Let's see.
Was arrested tonight in New York City.
No,
Sources say federal agents.
Let's see. Go to his page real quick. He just breaks down the entire thing. Let's see. Yes, that one right there on the right hand side. There we go.
All right, I'm Nate the Lawyer, and this is a law channel, and we are about to break down the first week of the Diddy trial. And I'm going to straight up tell you, it looks like Diddy's going to jail for life. Let's break it down. All right, so with this video, I want to explain to you what the charges are in the Diddy trial, how the government is going about proving those charges, and whether they've been successful at demonstrating any of this criminal activity. Now, if you're watching this video, I assume you know who P. Diddy is, so I'm just going to get straight into what's going on. So when we're talking about P. Diddy's criminal trial, we're talking about 5 charges, but really 3 separate crimes. Okay, so the first count is racketeering conspiracy. To prove racketeering conspiracy by the government, you need to know the existence of the enterprise, Bad Boy Entertainment, or for instance, if it's the mafia, you got to prove the mob actually exists. Or if it's a street gang, you prove the street gang exists, the Bloods, for instance. You also need an agreement to participate by the defendant, and you need a pattern of racketeering activity. Now, with this last one, this pattern of racketeering activity, you may hear the term RICO predicates.
You could use it as probable cause for a warrant, couldn't you? Evidence of extortion, intent to defraud. Those are RICO predicates, right?
Now, there are about 23 different crimes that the government's alleging that P. Diddy did. And here are some of those crimes, like sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. And the government, again, just has to prove 2 of those things to get a conviction of the RICO statute. Then you also have sex trafficking by force, which we are going to go over in detail. And we also have transportation to engage in prostitution, which is known as the Mann Act, which essentially means you're paying for prostitutes to cross state lines. And we'll go into detail with that count too. So at the end of the day, these 3 individual charges and 5 counts overall are what the government is seeking to prove to put P. Diddy away for life. Now, to prove their case, the government has started with calling 5 witnesses this first week. The first is Israel Flores. He's a former assistant security director at the Intercontinental Hotel in Los Angeles, and now he is an LAPD officer. Now, the Intercontinental Hotel is where Diddy was caught on video beating Cassie, and he's the security guard that responded to Cassie's call for help. And he's also seen in that video. Next up is a man named Daniel Phillip. He's a former male escort and exotic performer. Now, being a male escort, Phillip testified that he participated in multiple freak-offs involving Cassie, and that he felt that Cassie at sometimes was not a willing participant in the freak-offs. Next, you had Diddy's longtime girlfriend, Cassie. She's a singer, model, and she was the one who participated in a lot of these freak-offs. She said too many to count. Now, she is...
Yeah. What?
Escort, Phillip testified that he participated in multiple freak-offs involving Cassie, and that he felt that Cassie at sometimes was not a willing participant in the freak-offs. Next, you had Diddy's longtime girlfriend, Cassie. She's a singer, model, and she was the one who participated in a lot of these freak-offs. She said too many to count. Now, she is seen on video getting beaten by Diddy, and she testified to the abuse, the sex trafficking, and the prostitution that was going on from state to state. You also have Dawn Richard, who was a former member of Danity Kane, the girl group created by Combs, and she also was in a group with Combs himself called Dirty Money, and she saw some of the abuse that occurred between Combs and Cassie. And last but not least, you have
again this constant use of prostitution and in relation to her is nonsense. I don't know, again, if he's a lawyer, I don't know why he keeps relating prostitution to her, because she was never ever once a prostitute. He wasn't pimping her. He wasn't saying, "Hey, do you want to have sex with Cassie here?" That's why he wasn't doing that. Who was the Johns? Where were the Johns that were being paid to have sex with Cassie?
Didn't you see? Did you
hold
see
on,
the
hold on.
18 pictures that they released of all the Johns that were paid to have sex with
No.
Cassie?
There was one
No,
guy.
they were prostitutes. They were prostitutes. This is what I'm saying. They were sex workers. That
Yeah.
that she would choose.
And paid.
She would choose them.
Who paid?
And
Who
paid.
paid the sex workers?
No. Cassie would pay a male prostitute, okay, to come to their room while Diddy watched in the corner. And Cassie would have sex with this male prostitute. That's what would, and he would get paid
Right.
for it.
So how is Cassie? So why were you using the word prostitution?
Cassie
in relation to
testified.
Cassie?
Okay, are you aware? No, which this shit right here is even crazy, but you can look it up. Are you aware that this South African guy who was part of what do you call it? The 18 guys that they put out the pictures that were all part of the freakers who are going to be brought into the case. He's the gentleman that went into Trump's hotel and shot it up and was just started screaming to everybody that he was Diddy's slave. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
I think I know what you're talking about. I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
That gentleman, he has on record that Diddy signed a non-disclosure agreement with him for $5 million, and that was also presented as well.
I don't get it. So who was this guy?
His okay, let me see if I can show you a picture of him on my screen real quick. What's his name again? He's also going to come to the stand, but he was a South African. He was one of the male escorts who's also going to testify in the case. But he's also the guy who shot up.
But wasn't the same guy that was talking about how Diddy was part of the Illuminati?
Exactly, that guy. So I'm saying that guy, even though that's what I'm saying, which was crazy because everybody's like, yo, what's this guy talking about? He came and shot up like the hotel. He's talking about he wants to kill Trump, and now he's talking about his Diddy slave and this and that. Well, it turns out that he was really telling the truth as he was part of the Free Corps. And he does have records and stuff like that. And this is the feds and everybody saying that. Cassie also everybody saying it. Cassie said on the stand that that guy, what he was saying was true.
But again, this is this kind of over dramatic kind of language. If you're a sex worker, for goodness sake, that's your job as a sex worker. You get hired for a gig. The person that hires you, you're not their slave. You're just an employee of the person for that night.
Of course. But don't forget that you can't be hiring people to be having sex with them and giving them money in America. You can't do that.
That's not necessarily true. Can you not hire
It's not from Las Vegas. No, that's true.
Yeah. Okay.
That's true.
Carry on.
We have an agent from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. These are the people who conducted the raids on Diddy's houses, and they testified to the drugs and all the other debauchery they found in the house. All right, so now you know the witnesses. Let's get into the charges. First, let's start with the easiest one to prove, which is transportation to engage in prostitution. That's 18 U.S.C. Section 2421, and they are counts 3 and 5. Now, this is known as the Mann Act. Now, the Mann Act has two elements the government has to prove. One, you transport someone between states, and you intended for that person who you transported across state lines to engage in prostitution. So let's start with the first element, interstate transportation, which is, I think, easy to prove. First, they had Cassie go up and describe how she was being flown to multiple states by Diddy to LA, NYC, Vegas, Miami, all for these freak-offs. And then you also had Daniel Phillip. Remember the sex worker? He described being brought to various cities by Combs.
Please pause it. Again, nonsense. If you got two people that are in a relationship, but she describes them being in a relationship, traveling to locations, and then having sex parties, how is that prostitute? How is she a prostitute? If me and my missus are freaky and we go traveling around the world and we have the money to hire sex workers and have sex in a hotel, she's not a prostitute.
No, bro. But this is what we were talking
Doesn't
with.
make any sense. Nonsense.
This is what we're talking to Africa about. The Mann Act.
Exactly.
And I raised and I said, okay, in that case, then, 70% or 60% of the American population travel to a different location across state lines, and have the intention of having sex with each other, and they're not married, then somehow they are engaging in some kind of prostitution. Then, and Africa said, yes, they are.
Yes, and that's what it is. I mean, I'm just saying the facts.
I'm not gonna listen. If there is a crazy law like that,
I just showed you the law, man, and then I gave you.
No. But I find that crazy. That is crazy. That is nonsense. I just
don't. And the craziest part, like I said, is the fact that it went to the Supreme Court. You know what I mean?
What did you find crazy? Sorry, I just missed that. Could you repeat something?
So early on, I shared the case that pretty much talked about what the situation was, and there was to just make the point, and what the lawyer was saying was correct. And the case was Djibouti versus the United States, and basically it was just like you said, it was just a guy and a woman. They went to they went to another state. They used the train. They smashed, and they were charged with the Mann Act. So, and that the Mann Act is also just another term for prostitution, and another term they use for it is White Slave Act. So that's what they're talking about over there. You know what I mean? And in this situation, don't forget, in this situation, the girl's also claiming that she didn't want to be there. She got beat. This happened. I was drugged. This. So that's even worse. And then she's also claiming that they had other people come in. So imagine what that would mean when just regular people are being convicted of that stuff. When you know what I'm saying?
I see this.
Mike, maybe you can shed some light in this because is it true?
Before anybody goes on, can I just say something I just found online, or do you guys want to carry on? I don't mind being quiet.
No, that's fine. I was just gonna ask my question, Mike here question, in regards to this is it prostitution to if me and my partner, we're not married, we travel to a different state, let's say I'm in America, we travel to a different state and we have a party there, and we have sex there in a hotel. Apparently there's a law called the Mann Act that says that this is prostitution, that I am somehow engaging in prostitution if I travel with my partner across state lines and have sex with her in a hotel. Is this true?
No,
Mike?
No, that's not what's considered prostitution or the Mann Act, transporting someone for the means of prostitution. Now, of course, look at the Epstein case where he had his island and the Lolita Express and whatnot. Did Bill Clinton pay Epstein to go have sex with a 14-year-old girl? No, but he may have done it. This is like manipulation. So these women are saying, yes, she was dating P. Diddy. As strange as it sounds to us men, women will just roll over and do things that they don't want to do in order to please their man. So it doesn't have to be for sex trafficking. Money doesn't have to actually exchange hands. It just has to be a manipulation of the women. So these women are saying
coercion, right?
Coercion, yeah.
Coercion. How does one prove that? Hassan,
yeah, it's tough to prove. That's what Diddy's people are going to say. Well, why'd you stay with him for years? She's exactly. Well, I was trying to be a musician. He has all this power. You guys kind of mentioned the Illuminati earlier. So there's this whole belief in
he's the executive producer of my album, this and that, right?
Okay, so that's what they're using to prove coercion, basically. Hassan, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Yeah, so while you guys were talking, I was trying to look for a link between this whole Cassie lawsuit situation and the Diego company, the Ciroc, the liquor company. And from what little I found, it turns out that from what I'm reading now, it says that in November 2023, Cassie filed a lawsuit accusing Combs of rape, sex trafficking, and abuse. Although the lawsuit was settled within a day, Diego cited allegations of their efforts to distance Combs from the liquor company. The company argued that the public disrupting accusations posed a risk to and a devastating and permanent damage to their brand. So is it true that this case was dismissed within the day back when she first did the
And
lawsuit?
that's what made everybody in America, and like I said earlier on, made me a little bit disappointed and made me want to look into this case, because it was like, all right, yo, man, the allegations came, she's talking shit, yo, let's get it. You know what I mean? Diddy, go defend yourself. As soon as they filed the case, within like 8 hours, 9 hours, Diddy settled. Now, don't get me wrong. They also say that just because he settled doesn't mean the admission of guilt. He settled because sometimes going through the legal, gymnastics might cost him more money, or the damage to his brand and everything. Like, I don't know why. To be honest with you, I'm not gonna. I'm not his lawyer. I don't know why he settled. But he settled.
Isn't it a bit suspicious that the lawsuit is settled and then Diego, a third party who's not being sexually abused or raped, steps in and resurfaces this law case?
No, so you got to understand how it works. If you are my you're my brand ambassador, and then people you settle the sexual lawsuit case and all this trafficking and stuff, like, we don't want to be associated with you because.
But it's a Barbara Streisand situation. You talk about the case and bring it to court makes it more of a damaged reputation damage than anything else. Because if it's settled within a day, could it not be a case of the sexual abuse is being exaggerated, considering that the lawsuit has been resurfaced because of a third party, because of a multi-billion-dollar corporation that he took to court and who he won financial compensation from? Is it not more likely that this is not as salacious and as abusive and as horrific as it's being presented? It's maybe more of a case of a large corporation.
Hassan, can you explain what you were saying about the who was it? Was it someone mentioned about the liquor company and there was a breach of some kind of contract? Can you explain that again?
It's the clip from the clips I've seen. It's suggested to be a morality clause, meaning that if you are publicly harm our brand, and if we're associated with you in any way, shape, or form, we can take you to court to recoup our damages and essentially make it clear that we're not associated with you in any way, shape, or form. That your actions are clearly your own and they have nothing to do with us. This seems to be more likely the case that he took a left turn in suing Diego, and then Diego now they've seen blood with the Cassie situation, even though it was settled within a day, and now are going out of their way to make sure he's buried and out of the game in terms of being associated with them in any way, shape, or form. Him not being free is the best way to do it, because the fact that they're involved is at the least suspicious.
I don't think Diego forced Diddy to hire male strippers and then tell them to, where to ejaculate on Cassie, and then tell Cassie to put it on his nipples and this and this and that. I think he didn't do that. I don't think Diego told, Diddy to, beat up Cassie and all this other stuff and all this other craziness.
That's all on him. That's all on him, 100%.
All on him. And to be honest with you, if they knew that this was his character, why would they want to invest with him?
Well, it's a large corporation. You'd think they would have done this investigating before in the first place. You'd think that they'd say, well, let's look into.
They were just like us. They were just like us. P. Diddy's the guy. P. Diddy's the cool guy, man. Everybody wants to be like P. Diddy.
I think you're assuming too much naivety of a large billion-dollar corporation.
Hold on a second, guys. Hold on a second. So far, in a sense, this is what me and JM have been trying to do is find out how exactly is Diddy guilty. What is he exactly guilty of?
I thought we were playing Nate the lawyer, but we keep on stopping it.
Oh, no. We're going to continue playing it. Because you're absolutely right there, Africa. Because so far, I haven't seen any evidence of him. I know you guys are mentioning coercion now. I haven't seen any evidence of him, of everything that's been of trafficking anyone. I've already asked Mike this question as well. And I've asked Mike, okay, Mike, what if a couple wants to travel? They're not married, they want to travel, and he says no. But what they're trying to do is trying to basically put things together to kind of build this cohesion thing. They want this cohesion thing to stick, and they're using Cassidy for it. But so far, I haven't seen any real evidence that apart from him being morally degenerate, P Diddy. I haven't seen any real evidence that says yes, he was trafficking people against against their will. He was forcing people against their will. He was trafficking them across state lines, and he was using them for the purposes of sexual activity or whatever. So I haven't seen any evidence of that so far, and that's what I'm really interested in. I wouldn't even put it past this big alcohol company, as a Diageo or whatever they call, that P Diddy was successful in suing. Now having this vendetta against P Diddy and wanting to destroy P Diddy, I wouldn't put it past them. But so far, I haven't seen any of the accusations sticking, and that's what I want to know. But let's continue with the video and just see if this guy can convince me of something.
Hey, can I say real quick? I just Googled. I've never heard of this liquor thing, but I guess Diddy sued Diego, the liquor company, over his tequila and vodka brands, DeLone and Ciroc. Combs initially accused Diego of racism and negligence in supporting his brands, leading to a lawsuit, and then they settled. But now the liquor company owns his two brands. So I'm not quite sure what that big deal is. That if the liquor company now owns his brands, why would they then come and try to crush him later?
Oh, I see. Oh, so they own whose brands?
They paid him off. They paid him off.
Right. They bought him out.
Yeah,
he said they weren't supporting his brands because he's black, racism. And there's a lawsuit. And I guess apparently they just said, well, we'll buy your brands out and give him a bunch of money. And he said, cool, let's do that.
I think he still owns 50% though.
In all fairness, just like the video that we just watched, it wasn't his brand. Diallo, like he claimed, was his brand, but Ciroc was not his brand. Ciroc, he was a brand ambassador. He was not an owner. Ciroc.
But he still owns 50%. That's from what I'm reading.
No, he does not.
Okay, I'll have to Google that.
You just watch the video.
If he's been paid off, then it doesn't. All right, okay, continue the video then.
And Cassie request, and he was paid for sex on those trips. So it seems like the government has put up some proof that yes, people were transported across state lines by Combs knowingly. Now they had to prove the intent for prostitution. Well, how did they do that? Well, again, they brought Cassie Ventura off, and she testified that she was involved in these freak-offs, the sex parties. They were planned by Combs. There were multiple sex workers there, and she recounted specific events in New York and LA where these sex acts occurred. Also, they had Daniel Phillips testify about the sessions and the sex acts that he had in various cities, in various hotel suites, paid for by Combs, which confirms the interstate.
Is this Daniel Prey the guy you're talking about? The Diddy slave guy that shot up Trump Tower?
No. They have multiple people coming up. I'll give you while the video is playing, I'll give you the South African guy's name. I'll look it up.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from
travel for prostitution piece. Remember, he said he was paid to have sex with Cassie for these freak-offs. So when it comes to transportation to engage in prostitution under the law, it seems like the government has checked both those boxes. They have two witnesses and more that are going to testify about the freak-offs being flown out to multiple states to have commercial sex. Next, we're going to look at the sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion charges. How has the government in this first week put on evidence to show this? The elements for sex trafficking is the defendant knowingly caused a person to engage in a commercial sex act. The means of coercion was either force, threats of force, fraud, coercion, or anything that would get someone or force someone to engage in a commercial sex act. And then it had to be done across state lines. So let's start with the first element, knowingly engaging in sex trafficking. Have the government put on any evidence to show that Diddy knowingly caused a person to engage in commercial sex acts? Well, just before we get into that, let me define what a commercial sex act is. A commercial sex act is any sexual act in exchange for something of value: money, drugs, housing, career opportunities. So how did the government show this first week that Diddy knowingly caused someone to engage in commercial sex acts? Well, they put up Cassie Ventura, and she testified that Combs was the one who orchestrated the freak-offs, watched, recorded, gave instructions, paid the escorts. Even though Cassie didn't receive any payments, she said her career opportunities or her job was in jeopardy because she was expected to participate. She was flown to multiple different cities and complied out of fear. Also, we have Daniel Phillip, the male escort. He testified that he was paid about $4,000 in some instances to have sex with Cassie on multiple occasions in multiple different states. He claimed that Combs was in the room directing them, sometimes recording. These sessions took place in hotels. He did everything from the payments.
What was it? Let me get Mike's opinion, Mike's answer on this, because we went over a couple of times already. Is it paying someone to have sex with Cassie? And apparently, I've also heard that Cassie was actually organizing the payments and organizing the meetings and so on and so forth. Paying that male, we can call him prostitute or whatever, paying a male to come in and have sex with Cassie, is that considered prostitution? Is that illegal?
Of course,
I would think so. Other than, like somebody said, the Bunny Ranch out of Las Vegas, prostitution's legal, but in most of America, you can't pay someone to have sex.
I've been trying to tell them that.
Porn industries got a weird,
So would that be? So sorry, Mike. Would I be correct in saying so? The trafficking charge comes from not necessarily, P. Diddy going from state to state with Cassie, but from him organizing male talent or whatever to come in and have sex with Cassie for money across state lines.
Well, I think it's both. Yeah, the Mann Act, that's a big thing in America. To cross state lines is a huge issue. The feds get involved. If you don't cross state lines, it's not as bad as if you do. There's a lot of weird law about crossing state lines and trafficking and whatnot. But
so if these male prostitutes were traveling from one state to another in order to meet Diddy and Cassie and whoever else for sex, and they were being paid for it, that would be considered as trafficking.
Yes.
All right. I'm just trying to understand the American law system.
Yeah. It's weird. It's like the postal system. Like if you go and take someone's mail, it's a federal case, literally. It's
if you guys think trafficking is like trying to like bring immigrants through the border and you're like hiding them in the vans and
yeah.
Oh man, yeah, you'd be locked up out here real quick.
No.
That is trafficking too.
Yeah, it is. But I say if you think that's just the the breadth of it.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you've got a willing participant and you're willing to pay that person money for their troubles, for them to come and have sex with you and whoever else, and this person is not being forced in any way, is not being coerced in any way, he can decline the offer. He can decline the offer to fly out there and perform these sexual acts with you. How the hell is that trafficking? That doesn't make any sense at all. I proposed something to someone. That person said, okay, fine, I will. Oh, by the way, I'll pay you some money for your troubles. They come over, they have a good old time, and in the end, they get some money for their troubles, and then they fly over to where they came from. How the hell am I trafficking people?
Somebody mentioned earlier about Las Vegas, right? Prostitution's legal, like I said, in the Bunny Ranch outside of Las Vegas.
Yes.
So you have all these different jurisdictions within America. So you could be a sex worker in San Francisco where it's perfectly legal to ply your trade. But if you fly that person to Miami, they're now engaging in prostitution because Miami doesn't have legalized prostitution, So
exactly. For instance, you know, in America, you can be an engineer in Texas, but that's because you're an engineer in Texas doesn't mean that you can practice in what do you call New York.
That's right. You could be a doctor in one state and another state doesn't recognize that license, so you can't practice law. So you can be a sex worker in one place, but you're a prostitute in another.
And this is an old law. This goes back to because Octavio is pointing out how absurd it seems that you would be a prostitute and then going from one border to the next, one state line to the next. Now you're the person paying you is accused of sex trafficking, something that seems far more severe. And it goes back to the culture of the United States because this law was essentially invented to arrest Jack Jones, the former African American heavyweight boxer, who was quite a successful boxer that had, upset the status quo of boxing back in the day. And that law being put into place, invented especially just for him, it seems.
Yes, I think if you ask the panel, I explained to them earlier on about John Johnson, about the American heavyweight champion in the 1990s.
Sorry, I said Jack Jones. I meant Jack Johnson.
Yeah. And, to be honest with you, I'm not to even, go down that rabbit hole, but when Obama had an opportunity to pardon him, even in his death, Obama decided not to, but Donald Trump decided to. So I'm happy that Donald Trump felt differently about the case. But let's let Nate, the lawyer,
Yeah, let's continue. Let's finish this up. Go ahead.
Well, can I ask real quick? So
yeah, go ahead, man.
Jack Johnson, the black boxer, was he dating a white woman? Is that what it was?
He was married to her.
A lot of white women in his time.
He's like Sammy Davis Jr.
Yeah. Famous black guy. Got to take him down. Get him. Make up a new law.
There you go. Yeah, it's considered the White Slavery Act. So yeah.
Hey, you want to know something that's quite ironic? I remember watching one of Diddy's interviews, and like going into Diddy's office, I saw a big picture of Jack Johnson. So I'm Diddy knows.
And it's kind of interesting. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting that Diddy's another famous black person now being taken to task of suspicious circumstances, considering Diego's the one pushing for this whole thing to be made and pushing for his name to be put into the dirt and essentially ruin his image, because that's the objective as far as I can tell. Even though they own all of Ciroc, they have cited, and I can show you the newspaper here, that it's reputational damage, and he still was before this case, before they dug up this case, an ambassador for Ciroc. So they not only did they own all of Ciroc because of this lawsuit, and they paid him off, they now want to put his name in the dirt and completely bury him and separate themselves from him. That's what their motivation is, and they've stated it clearly in their filings.
So they want
the thing is, hold on 1 second, guys. The thing is with that, Hassan, you will have to show how, because that's a British company, yeah.
Yes, it is.
How they can exert control over basically the U.S. government and the legal department. What power would they have to that level of
which
power?
I consider, as an American, I consider an insult.
Well, yeah, the American, especially under Trump, the idea that a Trump government would allow a European government to come and exert that level of, how much money it's cost to take Diddy to trial? Are they fronting the bill for that?
No, but Jim,
I'm fronting the bill for that. I'm fronting the bill for that. The American taxpayers fronting the bill for that.
No, Jim. They don't have to exert nothing. All they have to do is basically drag what's his name, Fingers activities or P Diddy's activities. They just have to expose his activities, what he's been up to, and kill his reputation. So that's all they have to do, really and truly.
It doesn't make sense for the government to do their bidding, is what I'm saying.
Thank you.
It doesn't make sense for them to do their bidding. If the government want to take P Diddy, they don't need this. They wouldn't need a British liquor company. I guarantee whatever private investigators they have, the government ones are better.
Yeah,
law enforcement. But they don't need the private. Yeah.
As a private corporation, could they not sue an American citizen for ruining their brand?
Say again?
As a private corporation based anywhere in the world, and although they might have offices in the US, could they not just sue any individual for ruining their brand?
Yeah, they could sue them, but we're talking about now the idea of actually fitting them up now with this elaborate sex trafficking case. The more I think about it, I think it's probably out of their remit to be able to do that.
Okay, I'll find some evidence suggesting it then. I'll try to build a better argument. I'll play the video.
I don't know, because I think this is more to destroy his character and his everything that he's managed to build so far, and destroy his name completely. And I don't really think this is about sending him to prison or anything. It's more just to destroy his reputation. I think this is the purpose here. I mean, that's just my opinion. I think this is what they're doing, because regardless of what comes out of it's done. P. Diddy's done. I mean, it's done. If that was their intention, then I think they're doing a good job of it.
Yeah, here's another thing too. You also gotta understand. I think as soon as they get to court, they have an orientation with the juror, and they let them know the rules. And one of the rules are, we're gonna judge this case based on what is discussed over here and what can be proven over here. What all this Diageo stuff and everything like that, nobody's even mentioned any of that. So the jurors, when they're gonna making the final decision, that's not even gonna it's not even gonna be anything that sways their decision.
Okay, let me ask you a question then. What provoked Cassie? Okay, what made Cassie, after 11 years of participating in the hundreds of free cops, right? What possessed Cassie all of a sudden to come out with this lawsuit and be paid 20-30 million within 8 hours? What possessed Cassie to just come out of nowhere and do that?
I think what they call it, from what they're saying, right? They were saying that the government had reenacted a new law, and they were giving everybody a chance in New York. I'll try and pull it up. Everybody in chance in New York or LA, they'd given them a certain date that if anybody had any sexual abuse, or this is going during the Me Too movement and everything. If anybody had anything, this is the deadline. You need to come. If you don't come and say anything of that before that time, the statute of limitation was going to be over. So according to the filings and whatnot, Diddy, Cassie's lawyer reached out to Diddy and them to let them know, hey, we're thinking about filing this lawsuit. Do you want to settle? And Diddy them didn't want to settle. And the day right before the statute of limitation was going to be up, Cassie filed. So that, to answer your question, don't forget, this is normal, in America. If a woman feels like she's been wronged, and she's with her boyfriend who's a personal trainer, and again, I don't want to speculate too much, but this is probably her situation. She has 3 kids, and she knows that there's a possibility she could get a payday by telling Diddy, hey, I'm going to go and come out with a book, or I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. You just want to settle and give me 5-10 million? Because like I said before, I don't think Cassie anticipated that the feds were going to pick up the case. She filed a civil case against Diddy, and then the feds picked up the case against Diddy. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I think there's just more to it. But play the video.
The setup, the location. He also confirmed the transactional nature of all this. And he said, quote, Diddy gave instructions. He directed us like a seed. He wanted to see something specific. So does this prove that Diddy knowingly caused people to engage in commercial sex acts? Well, the government thinks so. Now we're going to move to the next element, means of coercion. Now here the government has to prove that there was some force, threat of force, fraud, or coercion to essentially get the person to engage in commercial sex acts. And here prosecutors focused in on that force, threat of force, and coercion aspect of it. For instance, Daniel Phillips. He said that he witnessed Combs physically abuse Cassie. He noted Cassie was emotionally detached, visibly uncomfortable during the sex. Quote, he said she looked like she didn't want to be there. He also described the intense control that he had about the directions and watching and recording every time. And even on top of that, he said he feared for Combs too. Now, his testimony seems to corroborate the both physical and psychological coercion that Combs initiated to force Cassie to continue to do these particular sex acts. Then we also have Cassie Ventura's testimony about how she was physically abused, how he kicked her, punched her, dragged her, stomped on her head. She said that the freak-offs were not optional. I didn't want to be there, she said, but I didn't feel like I could say no. Combs even used what's known as emotional manipulation. He threatened her music career, which is coercion. He cut off her financial support, again, coercion. He forced her into isolation, again, another form of coercion. He supplied her with drugs to keep her compliant, blackmailed her, and recorded sex tapes. Quote, he told me if I left him, he'd release the tapes and destroy me. Now, also to show the physical force nature of it, the prosecutors also showed the video of Combs beating Cassie for trying to leave a freak off. And they also had another witness who saw the beating. This was security guard Israel Flores, who's now an LAPD officer. He responded to the 2016 assault and said Cassie had a black eye, was crying, and was shaking. And she wanted to leave. Again, that shows the force part of forcing someone into sex trafficking. Combs tried to stop her from leaving, again, physically. So that's force again. Combs' demeanor was described as cold and dangerous. The security guard said he stared at me like the devil. This shows, again, physical violence and emotional control, coercion, threat of force, and force itself, all on video. And then the prosecutors called another eyewitness to the physical abuse that Cassie had to endure, and that's Dawn Richards. She was his band member, remember? And she said Combs attacked Cassie with a skillet, punched her, kicked her, and dragged her upstairs by force. It was witnessed by multiple people, including other bandmates. And then to intimidate the witnesses, the next day, Combs allegedly locked them into a recording studio and told them the abuse was just passion and warned not to speak about it, implying that there would be consequences if they conveyed this to anyone else. So these three witnesses definitely spoke to the means of coercion. They talked about the force, the threats of force, and coercion, all supporting Cassie's claims. Now, for the last element, that's commercial sex act, I think it's clear that these people were paid to go from places like New York to Miami or from Miami to California to engage in these freak-offs, and that would be commercial sex acts across state lines. So now we've shown how the government is trying to prove transportation to engage in prostitution. We've also shown how the government is trying to prove sex traffic by force, fraud, or coercion. Now let's look at how the government's trying to prove the racketeering conspiracy. Now, for racketeering conspiracy, first you have to prove the existence of the enterprise or the mob or the gang. And here they're saying the existence of the organization is Combs Enterprises, Bad Boy Entertainment. These are the companies and organizations that Combs used to facilitate his freak-offs and his sex trafficking. Next, you're going to be looking for whether there was an agreement to participate. The defendant had to know this negative stuff was going on. He had to know the freak-offs were going on, know the prostitutes were being paid and flown across the country. Have the government, or can the government prove this agreement or that the defendant knowingly agreed to participate in these criminal activities? Now, the last element for the racketeering conspiracy is you have to show a pattern of racketeering activity, meaning that there's at least two acts of what they call RICO predicates. They're also known as racketeering activity, and they had to have occurred within the last 10 years. Now, listen, that's just a convoluted way of saying there's a list of crimes, and if we can prove that you committed two of these crimes, then you can go to jail for life under RICO. Now, I need people to understand, since this is a RICO conspiracy, Combs doesn't even have to know if any of those other crimes are actually being committed to be held accountable under the RICO conspiracy statute. So now let's look at the list of crimes that the government is alleging that P. Diddy Combs has committed that falls into this pattern of racketeering activity. Now, I put them in a nice chart, and this is from the indictment. You got kidnapping, arson, bribery, witness tampering, forced labor, sex trafficking, prostitution, transportation, drug distribution. Now, from this list, the government only has to prove two of these things happened within the past 10 years from this enterprise. Now, from this list of charges, the government, I think, has for sure proven transportation for prostitution. They have the prostitutes up there saying, yeah, we were traveled from New York to Miami to engage in these freak-offs and get paid for it, right? So 13G seems to be well on its way to being proven. And then we also have the sex trafficking allegations. We not only have Cassie sex trafficking allegations, we have some other women. Now, what about 13H? Drug distribution. There were drugs at these parties. Both the escort and Cassie testified.
That's the guy. That's the South African guy.
Diddy's homes. The Homeland Security.
His name is Jonathan Adi, by the way. You can look at him up later, but that's the South African guy, Jonathan Adi.
On the racketeering stuff, Diddy's gonna get it. Because I was aware of all those
Yeah.
All those things. Nelson, under the racketeering, it's not looking good.
Yeah, he's gonna get it. And also, I've noticed another thing as well. When he was kicking, what's her name, Cassie. Cassie was trying to leave, and he was drugging her back, which again shows.
kidnapped.
Yeah, he's going down. Bro. It's going
Yeah,
down.
I mean that was the video that came out that pretty much brought him down, right? I mean,
that's going down, bro.
but
When I saw him pulling her back, I was like, "Oh no, what have you done?" That's it.
did you guys see? Apparently, his ecstasy pills he had made shaped like Obama's head.
Yeah, those Obama's had, and the other one he had the Tulsa logo on it. They also charging him on that one for counterfeit. I think it's one of the charges too. Yeah, drug distribution.
Yeah, the Tulsa logo. You mean Oklahoma?
Tulsa for Elon Musk.
Oh, Tesla.
Oh, yeah, Tesla. Yeah. I saw he had his drug dealer press out his ecstasy pills as Obama's head.
That's fucked up.
So now there's some weird maybe
crazy.
Obama's hanging out with him, but
are you serious?
Yep. And
yeah,
also,
no, you can Google it. It's evidence. They're different colors. They're red.
How do we know he gave the orders for that to happen?
It's in his crib, man.
When you're a billionaire, you can order your pills custom made,
bro.
Custom made.
And don't forget. There's I don't know if you guys know about this, but there was a gentleman, what do you call his drug mule that was caught when Diddy was about to board a private jet, and they caught him. You know that guy, right? The guy who used to play for Syracuse.
Yeah, but I saw him. Yeah.
Yeah, that guy snitched all the way by now. He's
you know that.
Yeah,
You know that.
Because if not, he's going away for a long time.
Is he being subpoenaed?
Of course, man. That's what I'm saying. They got the witnesses. Yeah, this is just the first week, bro.
And if you're on a level of actually creating drugs, like I mean, when you're on that level, you're going down. You're definitely going down. You made.
I thought maybe the drug dealer that was selling it to them thought it would be a good idea to do that, but obviously, how do you prove that? How do you prove that P. Diddy is the one who ordered for for these drugs to be custom made? Obama's head.
Well, I know about the other drugs. They had somebody, one of his personal assistants. I think the Kaplan guy testified that Diddy was telling him to buy drugs. The guy who was cleaning up the hotel room and everything like that, he already testified that Diddy was telling him.
Wasn't there some kind of new drug that they made up, like a mixture of all these drugs together?
Yeah, man. Diddy was
kind of new
the drug
drug
charge. The drug charge, that one is, like I said, that's without question. That one, he's going down. That alone, the amount of drugs that you saw the picture, right? You saw the picture of the drugs that they found in this Miami that Nate showed.
No, I haven't
seen that.
It was in the video. Nate just showed it.
Hold on. Apparently, they were on some kind of drip for days or so, or for like a day or two, in order to get the drip.
That was sad, man. That's sad. I don't even want to talk about that stuff. That's kind
oh
of sad.
my!
Imagine that. Like they were saying that they were having this free course will last for like 2 or 3 days, to the point where they have to come and get nurses and stuff to bring them IV fluids and stuff for them to recharge.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous, man. That's
so we got hospitals involved as well. Nurses.
I don't know the people who. They haven't said anything about the people who.
The dehydration could come from the drug use more than the sex. What is drug use more than the sex?
Yep.
Yeah, but you still have to have connections, like for you to, I mean,
Diddy has connections, man. You don't think Diddy has connections?
Yeah, he has. By the looks of it.
AKA Frank Black. That's how he checks into the hotels.
Anyways, guys, listen, I think we've broken this down. And shout outs to Africa for joining us, and also Mike. Mike, I need to ask you a question as well. I want to see if you're interested in doing this discussion that I want to have with you as well. But I want final thoughts on this one. It's been almost 3 hours. It's been a crazy live. Yeah, Diddy's going down, man. He ain't coming back. Africa, feel free to join us, bro. Every time we have a live, man, if you're interested,
Oh,
you know
thank
what I
you,
mean. Yeah, just you know what I mean. Come through. I'll
man.
put the link in.
Hospitality.
Yeah, bro, you're more than welcome. Send me your email as well. I'll put my email there as well. Join us. Guys, is Hassan still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Guys, final thoughts, man.
I'll go first, just to keep it quick. The more I look for links between Diego and Cassie and this whole situation, the less I find. They seem to be a little bit more innocent than I thought. It's not necessarily completely innocent, but not as guilty as I was hoping. Because the idea of a conspiracy theory of a large multinational corporation trying to take a guy down does seem interesting, but it doesn't sound as solid as I would hope it to be. 65 people watching. It would be nice if, when it comes to religious discussions, there are as many views. It's a shame that gossip and the downfall of a degenerate seems more interesting. Because if he was a bit more religious and a bit more moral, he wouldn't be in this situation. He would have kept all his money or whatever it is, and nobody would have a disgusting, perverse understanding of all the things he gets up to. Yeah, he might go down, maybe not. I don't think it's so certain because Cassie doesn't seem as innocent as she seems to present herself to be, in my opinion. He might get something, but his image is ruined. But who knows? It is Hollywood. Kevin Spacey's back, from what I can tell, and he's doing pretty well. And a lot of famous drug addicts and wife beaters and degenerates and such really go on to have thriving careers and go on to make great films and movies and songs and things like this. So who really knows? Maybe it's a bit too late for the Me Too campaign for her. But we'll have to wait and see. I don't think it's a open and shut case.
Africa, what's your final thoughts on this?
My final thoughts on this. I have multiple feelings, but the one that's paramount is, at the end of the day, Diddy's faith lies in the hands of 12 jurors. And when I look at their profile, most of these people are in their 50s and their 60s. A lot of them in investment banking. A lot of them are scientists. And based on that profile, I have a funny feeling that these people are going to look at just the evidence and just the facts. And if they look at just the evidence and just the facts and they hold Diddy accountable to the letter of the law, justice will be served. And as an American, that's all I can ask, for people to have due process. I'm a hip hop fan, but I'm an American first, so I don't want to be biased, and I hope that the whatever happens in the court of law is the truth. And that's it. That's my final thoughts. And I have faith in the jurors that they'll do the right thing. And I also encourage other people, if you get selected for jury duty, don't take it lightly, because you could be the game changer. We're giving our opinions and assessments over here, but where it really matters is in that courtroom. And a lot of people don't want to go into that courtroom. Over.
Yeah, Mike.
Yeah, I know. I think you mentioned the Illuminati earlier. It's funny. Are there cracks in the Illuminati wall? You would think, are they starting to eat themselves a little bit? You look at Epstein, billionaire, right? Harvey Weinstein, big, Hollywood mogul. Obviously, the Me Too movement took him down. P. Diddy, I don't know if he's a billionaire, but he's got to be up there. Certainly has hundreds of millions of dollars, and I think it's a good thing. We're seeing some of the powerful brought down. I mean, you guys seem to be thinking this is maybe not the most just prosecution of him. That he just like to have sex and orgies and whatnot. And I'm a libertarian, so I have no problem with that if everybody's consenting. But we'll see how it shakes out. But it's strange. What was the was it the head of the IOC or the Islam or there was a French guy who's like a billionaire in the Me Too movement, and I remember Tucker Carlson was like going, "Well, he's so wealthy, he'll never be brought down," and it did just seem to kind of disappear. But then shortly after that, you started seeing, like I said, Weinstein and other people got in like some serious trouble for their philandering. So I think it's a good thing that some of the powerful are being brought down to their knees, and no pun intended. But
JM, what's your final thoughts?
But I mean, when I first started this live, I was a bit more, I guess, hesitant about his culpability. But to be honest, the more we kind of spoke and some of the videos I saw, I think, yeah, I think with the racketeering particularly, I think he's going to find himself in big trouble with that. Some of those racketeering points are gonna bury him, I think. And then there's that kind of whiff of sex trafficking with the state. I mean, there was some good information that the American guys educated me on with regarding to state lines and the importance of, where in regards to prostitution, where it's legal, where it's not legal. So with that in mind, he may even get hit with the sex trafficking because it seems that he may have, engaged in that too. So it's not looking good for him. I would say though, I don't think that Puff Daddy is part of the Illuminati. I think that's a higher level, and at that level, those guys don't get put on trial. This is my opinion. But yeah, I think he's that.
Yeah, he's going down. They're gonna bury him. They're gonna make an example out of him. I don't agree with. I think some of the laws that they have is hypocritical, in my opinion. If you've got consenting adults, I don't, from other states flying over to to have sex, to participate in sex parties, and they are consenting adults, and they are being paid for their troubles, because they're not as rich as someone like Diddy is. And by the way, I don't agree with any of this as a Christian. I think it's all immoral. But living in the kind of secular liberal society that we currently live in, if that is, I don't think that should be regarded as sex trafficking, because first of all, they're not being forced to do that. Um, I'm also in two minds. So I mean, they are flying out to a different state to participate in the sex parties, and they're being paid for. I don't think that is sex trafficking because they're not being forced to do so. They are, they're doing it because they want to do it. I changed my mind a little bit on. I'm still in two minds about what's her name, Cassie, because Cassie had an 11-year relationship with this man, and she could have left at any time. She literally could have left at any time. And she and if things really got that bad, she could have gone to the police and reported him if she was being held against her will or so on. But according to the text message, that's what she was, a willing participant. She liked the freak offs. She may have felt uncomfortable later on down the line. And if that was the case, then why didn't you just leave? Why did you carry on? Now, after seeing that video of thinking kicking her and dragging her back, I'm like, yeah, legally speaking, yes. I mean, that Diddy, you're going down for doing that, because you are, she's trying to leave and you're holding her against her will. You're dragging her back and she doesn't want to. Yeah, that's going to bury thingy. But at the same time, I'm looking at her character, and I'm thinking, why the hell did you stay in that relationship? This couldn't have been the first time this happened to her. This probably would have happened more time. Usually, when a man does something like that, you can tell that it has happened other times. Why did she remain in that relationship? Because she's also to blame. Up to a certain extent, she's also to blame because she didn't have to be in that environment. So I don't look at Cassie as a nice and innocent person. I don't look at her like that. But at the same time, I can see why P. Diddy was, is going down for kidnapping her, basically. But yeah, and just to finish off, I would say this is what you get with degenerate, sinful behavior. These are the outcomes. This is people are going to do these things. This is what comes with, everyone can have sex outside marriage. Everyone can do what the hell they want. We are sexually liberated, feminism and all of that. This is what you get. This is the kind of society that you're going to get. So I'm not surprised that this is happening, and it is being taught a lesson. But yeah, that's my final thoughts, guys. Appreciate everyone. What's his name? Africa. I'm gonna email you as well. And just quickly, Mike, I wanted to have a discussion with you, and I'm gonna email you about this right now. But I wanted to have a discussion with you on slavery in the Bible. That I wanted to do a whole show, a whole live on me and you going back and forth, and your objections to slavery in the Bible, because you believe
The
that
curse of
that's
Ham?
sorry,
The curse of Ham?
yeah, the curse of Ham. Yeah, I want
Curse
to
of Canaan? The curse of Ham?
yeah, I want to.
Or son?
Yep, I want to delve into all of that with you, and I wanted to organize a time that we can sit down and have this live, and hopefully we will have 72 people watching. I know it's not as I know it's not P Diddy. It's a bit more it's a bit more biblical in nature, but hopefully. But shouts to everyone that has tuned in. Appreciate you guys, and hopefully we'll see you on the next live. And yeah, see you next time, guys. Peace. Take care, everyone.